and welcome to episode 229 of Flix and a Six. It's high noon at the edge of the universe. I'm one of your hosts, Anthony Costanzo, with me forever and always, the man, the myth, the sexy bacon, Alessandro Biolsi. Say hello, Al.
I got a crispy 5 for you, bro.
I was so worried that either of those two lines was going to be your thing that I'm so glad that you had another one in there.
Okay.
On this week's episode, we've got the ballerina trailer, DDL unretires, and a dynamic duo, all before diving into our flick of the week, Fall Guy. But first, Al, what were we drinking?
So we drank so much. I didn't know if you wanted to get into that. Do we want to do that before consumption or during consumption?
Maybe we could wait till consumption. I just felt like clearly this beer ties into that. So,
well, let's talk about the beer, and then let's go right into a pre-consumption, post-consumption, consumption.
All right. What are we drinking?
We are drinking Newburgh Brewing's collaboration with Aspire Brewing. It's the Aspire Boss. Old meets new, as Orange County's oldest brewery, Newburgh, teams up with its newest one, Aspire, to make a juicy IPA.
That's awesome.
It's a pint, which we love. I'm drinking it, of course, out of my Newburgh glass because that's what we're doing.
Same.
It's 7% alcohol by volume, and that's it. There's no other real story with this. There's some cool pipes that look a lot like the screensaver from an early 2000s computer.
They sure do. That's all I could think about when I see it.
There's also an old school incandescent light bulb that's dangling amongst it. And
it has like it definitely has an early 90s computer graphics vibe. I like it. I'm a big fan. Two things.
Yes.
The Aspire logo.
Mm-hmm.
If you look closely, it's an A, like the first letter. And second, I too am drinking my beer out of my Newburgh pint glass. And at this size, you can really see the detail in their logo, which is to say it's a heart.
It's a rather large heart, in fact.
But it's also a beer.
Oh.
And it's the handle. One side of the heart is the handle
of like
of the beer mug, and it says brewed with heart, and I just think that is really clever.
Oh, because it's beer and it's a heart,
right? Got it. And thus, brewed with heart. Newburgh, I gotta talk to you for a second though. Come here, come close. You pulling fast one with this glass?
What's wrong with the glass?
Or are you giving us a little extra in the can, or are you pulling the fast one with the glass? That's what I want to know, because I have not once fit one of your beers in your glass.
Well, I'm not 100% sure if I've ever put a different beer in the glass.
And I'm telling you, there's a little weight left in this can.
Yeah, mine did too. I just took a little swig of it. I think they overfill it, considering some of them have like the natural, like the yeast cake at the bottom of it. So I think they overfill it so you're not losing volume.
How have I never called you yeast cake?
It's a good question. It's not the first time I've said it on the show. Probably not even the fifth.
I may have also called you that.
You might have. It's been years.
That's fair. This, I'm excited about this. It smells fantastic.
Yes.
The aroma is there. I was surprised at the level of effervescence when I poured the beer.
You accused it of being soapy.
It was a little soapy. The head was a little soapy. But that being said, I'm really the bar is high right now.
Yes.
Because Aspire won the festival for me.
It won our personal grading of the festival.
Yeah, it won Best in Show.
Yeah.
And
I will say the one right next to it at the CIA tent was pretty great too.
It was a little scientific.
Well, I think that's
which makes sense. Totally valid. Valid. But it loses a little bit of the essence, I feel like, by being that way.
Did their essence get like transferred over to the effervescence of Aspire on the other side? I think it did.
And with that, I'm ready to try it.
Okay, cheers.
Cheers. Nice. Such a pleasant clinking sound. The two great houses coming together, the Cleary and the Lodge. It's this is really good. We love us some Newburgh. You know, I'm very surprised. When I saw those bubbles, I was anticipating
soap.
like, no, just carbonation in my face.
Ah,
But no, not like that. They've settled down.
yeah.
It's just right.
Well, you do always want at least a little bit of head retention for your beer is good because it speaks to it's a reaction of the protein floating in the beer, and depending on the style of beer and what went into the fermentation, you do want a little bit of that. It can help with some of the mouthfeel and some of the aroma type of stuff. So
yeah, well, I'm just surprised because when I thought that it was going to be very bubbly, and on the contrary, it's a little flat.
I mean, it was bubbling vigorously when it was poured. It's actually kind of a good thing. I've heard some talk on that recently, where if that carbonation doesn't activate and get out in the pour, it's just going to be sitting in your stomach.
Sure.
So, to a degree, you do want a little bit of that. I don't think it tastes flat though. And it's still.
Oh, sorry, not like in a bit, like flat in comparison to what it like. I thought it would like. I was a little worried. I thought it was going to be like seltzery.
Oh, just relatively speaking.
Yeah,
okay.
and it was not even remotely close to my anticipation of what that.
Because I still see it bubbling here.
Yeah. No, it's very tasty. It's it's got that like I appreciate that we didn't get a lot of juicy thrown around with this because it's got that flavor profile that a lot of folks would put on their can as juicy, but it's not that. But by not saying that, I'm okay with it.
This reminds me of the one that we did a few weeks ago where we mentioned that it was like whatever it was, the hazy IPA or juicy IPA, and we were saying that we had expected it to be like that super juice, and it really wasn't. It was a little bit more balanced and restrained. This is actually pretty similar to that one, I feel like. I forget which one that was, but
this is the Trace Thuckles, right?
Yeah, pretty clear.
Yeah, I mean, there's no contest. We're not unsurprising. Yes, it's going to be good.
We've always loved Newburgh, and as Anthony has learned in the past couple of weeks,
turns out I love Aspire.
We now love Aspire as well. I will go 3 Thuckles on this. Let's talk about BEERFREST, which we partook in. Unfortunately, we missed last week's recording, but we
did.
We would have had it fresh in mind, or as fresh as it could have been anyway, considering the amount of beer that we quaffed, or at least the amount of
I
beer.
will say the past 2 weeks has been such a whirlwind that it feels like we were just there.
It does, in some ways. It almost feels like it was the other day.
Yeah, I think I'm still full.
So, we got there against type super early.
Yeah. Which was like low key, like the opposite of stressful. It was just so nice to just be out and in the fresh air and waiting and not having an agenda.
It's funny because for a minute you seemed stressed that we were there too early. Just for a second. And then it's funny. It's funny. We were promised no rain. It definitely rained. We were catching the last fringe of what was left of Hurricane Helene, and anyone who's listening in this country, and we know that we're now listened to probably in about 100 countries around the world. So surely, if you told 2 friends,
I haven't gotten that bad yet, but we'll see.
And you told 2 friends, and you told friends, told 2 friends, we should be in 100 countries.
We're on our way.
But
I'm on my way.
In this country, pretty rough week of hurricanes. Mostly not by us. We got a little bit of rain, little bit of rain spit on us. Thankfully, there was a lot of tents, so that was not so bad.
I will say the drive home was a little tense.
Really, because it had been done raining up here by the time you left.
It was so aggressively windy. And just the right amount of rain where like the windshield wipers like can't quite figure it out, and also for some reason every other car is doing like 95, and you're like, why do you want to die?
Because by the time
do you want me to die?
By the time we got back and had dinner, and then we went out and smoked cigars, it wasn't raining anymore. It was dry by May.
But it on the road it rained pretty much the entire time.
Jeez.
Yeah.
All right. Well, on more pleasant topics, we got in line. We had a good time. We didn't quite make friends with the people near us, but we did chat with them for like 3 seconds.
That's about my. That's it. That's all.
This was probably the lowest interaction with the milling crowds that I've ever had at this. Like, there's plenty of people there, but I didn't really feel like there was much, and we didn't need to because we had some buddies hanging out,
right?
And we had plenty of interaction with people working the event, which is cool.
Yeah.
Specifically, like at a place like Aspire, where guy who was a representative of the place was there. we were clued in at the beginning that there was a little scavenger hunt hosted by one of the people supporting the event. It was a law firm from the city of Newburgh. Spoiler alert: I won the raffle,
which is just insane.
It's
That's
insane.
Just so funny.
We were joking about it. How many people are going to do this? Oh, haha! We're like the one of like 3 people who's going to turn this in. And a couple of days after the event, I was like, I'm going to go look on their Facebook page, and I'm not even joking. This is how I was at work. I was like, oh, a little while when I take a second just to take a break and check out my phone. I'm going to go on their Facebook page, see that they announced the winner, see who it was. It won't be me, it won't be Anthony or Jay, like whatever. And like probably 15 minutes later is when I had that opportunity, and I took out my phone and I had a bunch of like push notifications, like a couple of texts, like sports like update push notifications, and like a couple of emails. And I'm like going through each one, get to the last notification, email. I was like, and I clicked on it, and it was, congratulations, you won the raffle. And I was like, no fucking way.
Incredible. What a treat.
So I won a raffle. All we had to do was go visit a bunch of the different vendors. Some of them were the beer vendors, some of them were food vendors. One of them was the law firm itself. Just go say hi, partake of whatever they're doing. Get some of that, it's free of charge. We didn't even have to pay for the food per se to get the stamps. They were willing to get it, but you guys did in a couple of those spots.
Oh, and boy, was it good.
We'll get to that in a second. We just turned it in, and I won. So I won
Yeti cooler,
a full-size Yeti cooler that was full of mostly Newburgh beer. Amazing. There's a couple of Millhouse and a couple of actually from the barbecue place, that Handsome Devil beer. Got a couple of those as well.
Nice.
So we'll work those into the upcoming queue of beers for the show, of course.
Incredible.
But that was super cool. I genuinely
did not win the cooler, and I did not win $10,000 that night.
Was there a $10,000?
There was $10,000 at stake. Where I was not was our like biannual VFW.
Oh, you mentioned that last episode.
Dinner,
that's right.
Which we've yet to win anything for.
It's all right. It's for a good cause. But we drank so many beers; they were delightful, and a couple of ciders too.
Although I will say, my only regret is that I didn't go back in time to get the candy corn cider because Jay was in love with it.
Oh, I totally forgot about that. Yeah, I never even thought to cycle back to that. Because we tried the pumpkin pie one and
apple cider donut.
Or apple cider donut. Yeah. He tried both of them, I think, before we went back.
And I think his winner of the day was the candy cane cider, surprisingly. Really? Yeah, he seemed pretty hung up on it. Honorable mention to the cannoli stout.
Yes, from Aspire.
That was very interesting.
So me, Anthony, and Jay were there literally first in line, first sipping beers.
That's right.
For the VIP hour. And then my cousin Mike, hey Mike, joined us for the duration of it all. And
Producer Mike.
Producer Mike. So I think Aspire was probably our favorite. The CIA, the Culinary Institute, which is
easy number 2 on that list.
About a 45 minutes or so from where I live. They had some really good beers there too. Mm-hmm. We had a couple of IPAs from Aspire that were fantastic. The CIA one,
the Newburgh was my winner.
Yeah, I forget which one I preferred of the two of them, but I liked both of them a lot. The cannoli stout was outrageous, 13.5% alcohol.
Yeah. Outrageous.
The I think CIA was it like a Dunkel or something like that I really liked.
Yep. Yeah, I think I had their Oktoberfest.
Okay, yeah, because they had 2 different beers that would have worked for Oktoberfest. It was I think a regular Marzen, and then I think they had
the one you got was May the Schwartz be with you, right?
Yes, that's what it was. It was Schwartz beer. It was May the Schwartz be with you. You're right. Dunkel, Schwartz beer, similar-ish.
Yeah.
We had some other really cool ones.
Tomato potato.
We discovered a couple of breweries that I'm not even aware of from the Hudson Valley, where I live. I knew Aspire was somewhere out there. I didn't know exactly where. Apparently,
I had a chance to look them up. Yeah,
Anthony did more digging than me because he was so caught up in it that days later he's texting me and Jay to say, So Aspire looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's like you're just like on the website checking it out.
Well, I actually was checking to see if I could get a sense of where they distribute to see if there's anything near me I could get. And then I saw their location and what they've got going on there, and it's really nice.
It looks awesome. It's over by the Middletown Mall, or technically it's the Crystal Run Mall, whatever. But I actually, when I saw the address, I thought it was in the mall, which is becoming a more and more popular thing. But it's actually, there's a long driveway that gets down to the mall.
Okay.
And there's like a couple of other like big box store type places. There's like a Sam's Club over there. There's a Home Depot over there, or Lowe's, one of those two.
I do not want to work at Home Depot.
I reference that all the time. Anytime I hear the word
Pops
Home
into
Depot,
my head
I say it
every
all the time. There's like a Best Buy. There's a couple of other things that have been in and out of some of those big locations, and this is in one of those four. The place it's in, I don't remember if it's that building or if it's one of the connected buildings to it, but it might be in what used to be a Toys R Us.
Nice.
I was looking on the map, and the cluster of buildings that are there, Toys R Us was over there. I just don't remember if it was that specific building or not.
Wow, that's pretty cool. In the carcass of a Toys R Us.
And this does not look like a carcass. It looked fucking awesome. The pictures I was looking online when you said that.
Right, yeah, we're not talking like a Spirit Halloween like takeover and decomposing body.
The next time we can get you free up here, we'll have to go check that out, because that would be
the indoor cornhole field looked pretty cool.
They had axe throwing there too. Touch. Huge tap wall. It looked like they have like those self-serve taps? Is that what I saw?
That's what it looked like.
Yeah. It looks like they must be doing like some hosting of other breweries as well, in addition to their own, because there was way too many taps for just them. Yeah,
and it also they had. I didn't look at the menu, but it sounded like there was a food as well.
Yes, I believe so.
Maybe a good amount of it too. Very cool. I'd be interested in checking that out. I'm looking for, in a few years when the kids are a little bit older and they're like, and they can have fun like playing like some of the board games and stuff. Yeah. I think we'll be making trips like that a little bit more often.
Yeah. So I mean, listen, it's a hike. I'm not unsympathetic to the fact that it's a almost 2-hour drive to get to Middletown from you. So
that's fair.
But
worth it.
Yeah. But
for the Newburgh,
very cool. And then we had some food while we were there.
So much food.
Anthony and Jay sampled Handsome Devil Barbecue, which is like not that far from where I live. And
the hot mess.
You guys got the hot mess, which was what, mac and cheese and brisket, or pulled pork? Which was it?
Yes.
Was it both?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I forgot. Yeah. You guys had. I didn't have it,
and it was a treat, and like it was good. And I mentioned to Al in there, like I'm not big on pulled pork, but I am big on brisket.
Yeah.
But this was a delight.
Really?
Yeah.
Funny that on the day that we're talking about Daniel Day-Lewis on retiring,
I'm taking delight back.
I'm taking it.
Because it really was a treat. It was so good. I did not have the curry goat.
I also didn't have it. Very disappointed by that.
But what I did have
chicken
was the jerk chicken,
delightful.
Which was banging.
Yeah, so good.
And
I always forget the name of that place. So there's this Caribbean place that's always there,
Caribbean Queen.
They're always there. I'm pretty sure I had the curried goat last year. They were like out of it by the time we went. We were not there super late.
I get the impression that maybe they didn't pull it off for the.
Well, the thing is, I don't think they brought it because there was multiple things that were curry on the menu, and I asked for something else, and they didn't have that either.
They didn't have it.
I don't know if they just didn't have a batch of the sauce that time or whatever.
They 86 the curry.
But we did have the jerk chicken was still really good.
The jerk chicken, I got more mac and cheese because I like to try. I like that style of mac and cheese too. Like, so I wanted to have a little bit of that. But for me, it was the collard greens because I love collard greens, and the combo bite of the jerk chicken mac and collard green was bananas. It was so good.
Yeah, I did not have the collard greens. I had the rice, and I forget what the other thing I had with it was. Oh, no, yeah, actually, I don't remember what the other.
You had mac and cheese and rice, didn't you?
Did I have the mac?
I think.
Oh no, you're right. I did have the mac and cheese.
Yeah. But oh my goodness, that was good. But like the serving size that they gave,
It's a huge
goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Goodness gracious. And I normally have this issue with places where I'm like, look, I get it, but like I will pay you 2/3 of the price for less, just like, you know, a human-sized portion.
It's kind of like
the whole thing.
It's kind of like well, of course. It's kind of like I was actually surprised how much you ate because you guys both had I was not hungry. I ate right before you guys got to me. I did not have the hot mess.
Well, if you would recall, that was the first thing I ate that day.
Sure. But that was a lot of food, and then we had a pretty. We ate at the Newburgh Brewery afterwards, which was cool too. I mean, just a little sampling. We got a couple orders of pretzels, so that was cool.
That jalapeno cheese sauce.
Oh my god, the jalapeno beer cheese sauce.
You know, in a day with that much beer, the food is really the standout star.
Yeah.
And then
the dinner my dad made.
And then the dinner. And your dad turns to me and goes, "Is 3 pounds of pasta enough?" Yes. 3 pounds of pasta is enough. It's more than enough for 6 people. 1.5 pounds of pasta is good for 6 people.
It was 6 healthy sized gentlemen. As we had the actually no, it was 7 of us. 7 of us.
Oh, okay.
Because it was the 4 of us plus my dad plus his friend Paul and his son Nick.
Right. Sorry, 2 pounds.
The way you said it though, we didn't have a crazy amount of pasta left over. We had a ton of the sauce left over. There was not actually a crazy amount of pasta left over.
I know. That's because as I was scooping it onto the plate, your dad was like, "Go ahead, a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more." And then everybody ended up with 1.5 pounds of pasta on their plate.
And we all ate it all.
Yeah, and it was delicious. Don't get me wrong. It was just too much. It was far too much.
It was good.
The spice was right, though.
Yeah, the
spice was right.
The spice. Yeah, we had a bunch of the Italian long hot peppers that he was growing in the sauce. We had some sausage, some kale. It was the long fusilli, right? I think that was the pasta he used.
Mm-hmm.
Chef's kiss.
The best pasta that exists.
Cigars, whiskey.
Did not partake in either of those things. And here was my downfall.
You did have to drive home, so I didn't expect you to partake
there was
the whiskey.
But the downfall for me, I also I kind of tuned out from the beer for like an hour and a half to 2 hours at the end of this, just because I don't like to get drunk anymore.
But my point was, you weren't going to then follow up with whiskey after that when you're about to be driving.
The biggest thing for me was I was so full from the day, but I was so thirsty. And I was like, I need water. And I went and I got myself a glass of water and I drank it way too fast.
I was just sitting there.
And then that is what killed me. And then I was just like walking around. I was pacing your house for like 30 minutes just to try to get it all to stop, just to get the pain to stop. And I was like, is throwing up better? Like, what? that's where I was at.
You don't want to throw up all that delicious dinner.
No, you don't. But it settled down. It took a while. And then the espresso worked in that it was delicious and settling, but did not keep me super like awake I was exhausted on the drive home.
There was too much in your stomach for you to like absorb the caffeine properly.
And the caffeine hit just as I laid down. And I was like, I'm so tired and I cannot sleep. It reminded me of the early days of being a father where you're just kind of up in general.
Yeah.
But it was a good time. I think next time I'll eat breakfast.
Probably wise. Even just grabbing something small on the way up, or like bringing a snack while you're driving up, or whatever.
Yeah, and that's really it. Everything else stays the same.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad I got you on board. We'll make this an annual tradition. I think so. It's one that I certainly enjoy annually.
And let's put it on the books now. And by put it on the books, I mean let's just get the seed planted. We will be bringing back the Pumpkin Beer Fest.
Oh, fantastic.
2025.
Next year, that's our target?
That's the target.
Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
Speaking of planting the seed, we can have one quick moment here to mention the fact that this coming weekend, we will shockingly be seeing each other again after just a
What?
few short weeks. D'Amico Oktoberfest is happening in just a few short days.
Those two things don't sound like they belong in the same.
The D'Amico clan.
It's where we drink German beer and eat lasagna.
little Italian German fusion.
Yep. I gotta say, for a bunch of Italians, we do German food pretty good.
I think so. Yeah, I really like your dad's sauerbraten, and considering he is literally from Sicily, it's not even the right side of Italy to like know German food.
No.
But I mean, considering he was professionally cook / chef / whatever you want to call him for like 40 years, he knows his way around a kitchen.
Yeah, he cooks with heart.
He does. Now, are you securing the pretzels again this year?
I am. Yeah, I'm gonna buy half as many, but
you bought a lot of pretzels last year.
Yeah, they were still in my freezer up until a couple months ago, and I was like, "Well, no one's eating these," and we threw them out.
Oh, you could have given them to me. I would have eaten them.
Yeah,
I mean,
they were damaged goods at this point.
Okay. Apparently, I've been charged with securing the beers. So, any special requests?
Yeah, no special requests. I will say, my mom reached out to me. She goes, "Are you going to do the pretzels again?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll do the pretzels." She goes, "And Al's doing the beer." I was like, "I don't know. This is not my party."
I don't know. The other day, my mom was like, "Oh, you're getting the beer, right?" I was like, I felt like my cousin.
I am the beer.
I felt like my cousin. I shot the clerk. I'm getting the beer. It's like
I am getting the beer.
I was like, how much beer does she want? I took like 2 days to get the answer to that, and like
the beer.
So,
yeah, I kind of would prefer to get the pretzels from Newburgh.
They're not going to say it's fresh. Pretzels. They are good pretzels. The sauces, I mean, 2 different mustards, both excellent. The beer cheese, incredible.
Mm-hmm. The beer cheese is where it's at.
The food there is actually insanely good. Like, there's no good reason for this brewery to have.
Yeah, if I wasn't busting at the seams, I would have finally had my empanadas.
Yeah.
But I was.
The empanadas are great there.
All over the wall.
During the pandemic, they started like shipping a certain amount of food, like if you lived within a certain radius, and so I would order beer and food from them like once a month, including the empanadas. I think that was around the time they started doing the empanadas. My favorite thing there, I've talked about it for years, is the fish tacos. I love the fish tacos.
Oh, right.
So fucking good. But there's a lot of, I mean, even just like something simple, like they do like good poutine, like really good, huge basket of fries with all the gravy and cheese and all the fun stuff. Like it's a legit place.
Yeah, maybe we'll make it a twice yearly thing. One time it'll be the beer festival, and the other time it'll just be a Newburgh trip.
So we could do a fall spring thing, and in the spring we can pursue a different brewery in the area. We could do an Aspire. We can do an Equilibrium. Jay was talking about them a lot. We can do a Newburgh. There's a handful of others. There's that one I found out. There's like 3 breweries a few blocks apart from each other in Poughkeepsie. We could do a mini crawl in Poughkeepsie, in that neighborhood.
The spelling of that word.
Poughkeepsie?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but I guess I've always assumed that was a Native American word. There's a lot of those towns up here that are those sorts of... Because it does... You're right. It's one that, like, when you hear it versus when you see it, you're like, I feel like I know that's what you're getting at here, but never would have guessed that's how it's spelled.
Yeah. Oh, man. Good stuff. That was fun. That was a really good trip. There was no real... I would say there were no misses, really, in the beers that I tried. I believe that you and Jay both had one where you were like...
It wasn't beer.
Oh.
I don't know what it was. It had alcohol in it. I forget what it was called now. I probably should have taken a picture. It was some other form of fermented something. I forget what it was. It was like milky looking. It wasn't milk, but like that's what it looked like.
I don't like anything about what you're saying.
The taste and consistency was weird. I don't remember what it was called, but I tried that and I was like, that's enough of that for me. That's the only thing I didn't like.
Yeah, you tried that, and that was late enough in the day that all the washout water was gone.
Yeah, no, I struggled. I had to really look around for like a little splash just to get enough of it out of the glass because it was coating the glass too. But yeah, that was probably the only negative experience I had with. There was a couple of things where I was like, that was fine, and then a bunch of things I really liked. That was the only thing I didn't like.
Right. I forgot to share it with the group that I have a picture of Lonely Jay on the bench listening to the music.
Oh my gosh, I forgot about it. Yeah. Was he eating his ice cream or?
No, it wasn't. I think he was just sitting there, but he definitely had a spoon. He was obsessed with the spoon.
He had the spoon from the ice cream.
If you were to talk to each of us about our highlights from the day, mine was the Newburgh from Aspire, and with a close second being the Jamaican food, and then a close third being the hot mess. All of those things were an absolute treat. I get the impression that yours was maybe the CIA or the Aspire, but for Jay,
it was just that little section, like those section. Like 3 or 4 beers we tried in that little section.
But the highlight of Jay's entire day was the
spoon.
Structural integrity of the spoon that he received to eat his ice cream.
His eco-friendly spoon, I believe, right?
Yeah, which is more sturdy than most of your actual silverware.
Yes,
it was.
He carried it. He still had it at dinner.
He slowly took it out of his, and he brandished it at us.
He brandished his spoon.
What a time! What a time to be alive. Should we get into some news and nuggets?
It's probably time. Yeah,
it's probably time, right? All right. So let's go with Ballerina.
You finally seen her.
I finally seen her. Saw the trailer. I gotta say, I'm gonna put it out there now. You know how you say like, so-and-so's having a year, right? Like they usually oh wow, they've been in a lot of things. Anna de Armas is having like a decade.
She's having a moment.
She's just in it all.
If there's anyone else on this show, I know I've talked about it a million times, who's listened to the Dan Le Batard show, there was this running bit like a year or so ago, maybe a year and a half ago, where Dan and Stu, the two main hosts, were on vacation. They had other people from the Meadowlark Empire come in and guest host for the week. And so Zach Harper and Amit Al-Hassan, who I've talked about a bunch of times doing Cinephobe with the other stuff I've listened to a lot, the two of them were in guest hosting, but they still had most of the producers. So it was like kind of like a worlds meets worlds thing. So Amin has been on the show a million times. Zach has been on as a guest a couple of times, but not that often, really. Never like in to do like the show, really. Like he's been on for like a segment. So they started like a segment with like, almost like a cold open, like out of like a break, and he was mentioning that in like quick succession he had watched 2 Aubrey Plaza movies. He was talking about I think it was Ingrid Goes West, and I forget the other one. I think he was like on a plane and both of them were on there, and he like watched them, or maybe it was like one on one flight, one on the other flight back, something like that. And he was like, wow, Aubrey Plaza is really having a moment. And like, it felt like all, like whatever 4 or 5, there was like the 2 of them plus like 3 or 4 of the producers, like it almost felt like at some point over the course of like a 10-minute span, they were having 5 different conversations. Like they were having as many conversations as there were people somehow.
Sure.
Because they were then talking about like the shirt he was wearing. Like one of the producers mentioned like liking the shirt he's wearing. And then like Amin was talking about a shirt that he likes that he meant to wear that he didn't have. And then like it became this whole thing. And then like one of them like wasn't paying attention and like came back and like said something. They're like, we were literally talking about that like 90 seconds ago. And
satellite delay.
So they're like, wait, how do we get there? And they literally started the conversation back up. And an almost identical conversation. But and you can tell like after about like 2 minutes of doing it that they were now like intentionally trying to recreate the whole.
Yep.
And this went on for like 45 minutes.
Oh my god.
It just kept going further and further off the rails as it went. So now it's become this running joke both on the Le Batard show and on the Count the Ding stuff about, oh, that person's having a moment right now. And they'll be like, oh, weren't you just watching that Aubrey Plaza movie the other day? Even though it had nothing to do with the other thing that's having the moment. Ana de Armas is absolutely having a moment.
Absolutely.
And her moment it's weird because like it felt like she had a moment and then like was just like, okay, so now she's just like she's doing her career. And then somehow she's now in the middle of another even bigger moment. Like it doesn't even make sense, really.
Yeah. She's like doing the wave.
Because she had Knives Out, and there was something else that came out right around that time as well, right?
Let me pull up her IMDb.
Because like it felt like, oh, she had a moment there, and then she kind of like just like went into just, okay, so now she's like a thing that we know about. She's like a known quantity.
So I use a browser called Arc. and it's just organized the tabs in an interesting way, and I'm not getting into it, but I pull it up and I typed in IMDb, I hit enter, and it pulled up the last thing that I did in IMDb, which was George Clooney.
More on that later.
And darn this. Okay, let's see what we got here. Yeah, let's go back to the list. I'm gonna go back to Knives Out. Where are we at? When did that come out?
Was that 2018?
I think so. 2019. All right.
That's close.
All right. So Knives Out.
Well, no, this is helpful though. Look at 2017, 2018. Like, see if I couldn't remember. Maybe something came out. Right
well, Blade
before.
Runner was in 2017.
But she had a very small role in that, right?
Yeah, but she was in that. War Dogs was in 2016. That was a good, decent movie. Let's see. Exposed.
Wait, which one was War Dogs? The one with Josh? Not Josh.
Jonah Hill.
Jonah Hill. Yeah.
Yes.
And Miles Teller.
Yes.
I forgot she was in that.
Yeah, that was a decent movie.
So maybe that's what I was thinking of then, because
could have been that.
It was okay. I saw it once. I don't know what I was expecting. For some reason, I was expecting something a bit.
It's a one and done. But yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so we got Blade Runner, Corazon, Entering Red, The Informer, Wasp Network, Knives Out. That's when things start to blow up a little bit. Sergio, the Night Clerk, No Time to Die, like being in the Bond movie, pretty sick. Deep Water, The Gray Man, which I haven't seen and wanted to see. Blonde, Ghosted, Eden.
So I think that was the I think the moment I was thinking of, maybe it was the War Dogs Knives Out thing, because then there's like it's a couple of years and then it's No Time to Die. I feel like kind of kicked off like that next moment, because she had Ghosted, she had was there something else in there you just mentioned? The
Gray Man and Blonde.
Which is The Gray Man? I don't even know if I know what that is.
That is the Ryan Gosling's. Was it Ryan Gosling and Chris Evans? Chris Evans, yeah.
Oh,
I wanted to see it. I was like so excited to watch it. It's a Russo brothers movie.
Okay,
and I really wanted to watch it. I never got to it. I do think it's on Netflix though, so maybe we could add that into the mix.
Okay,
get that going. It's not next week. The week after.
Not next week, but we do need something for the week after. So
there we go. Look at us. Look at us.
Look at us on the fly. Just doing show.
Planning it out.
Just doing show.
If you have a movie for us to review or Nuggets for us, you can send those requests to flixinthesix@thespinchoon.com.
If you're from a new country listening to this because a friend just referred to you, please refer us a movie to watch.
Please tell your international friends.
And hell, make it a movie from your company or from your country. We'll watch it. Whatever. We're fine with subtitles.
Yeah, we sure are. Sometimes we don't even put them on.
That movie was entirely in English. It was also entirely without words. Almost entirely without words.
The facial expressions were English.
I mean, sure, shit took place in America. I mean, like...
Amazing.
Guys, if you want to...
about Ballerina. Let's go back to Ballerina.
I was talking about A Quiet Place. You wanted to talk about Ballerina.
So Ballerina is the first extended movie in the John Wickiverse.
The first movie, not the first extension of the Wickverse. Because
right, they have the Continental.
The Continental show came out.
Right, I did. I actually forgot about that and never got to it. Did you watch that? I don't remember.
Never saw it, but I didn't forget about it.
Wow. But Ballerina, so we're getting another fun story. I mean, it's kind of cool focusing on that other piece of world building that they did with the ballerinas and
let's go back for 2 seconds, because we talked about when they announced this movie like a while ago, like a couple of years ago, and I entirely forgot about it. You also, it seems like, entirely forgot about it.
100%.
I saw a trailer on Twitter a couple weeks ago, and it was like Ballerina, like whatever. Oh, you got to check this out. And I was like, why? And I clicked on it. I was like, oh my God, I think this is that John Wick thing. And then, you start getting Ian McShane and Lance Reddick and Angelica Houston. I was like, oh, that's right. They were going to do a whole other John Wick movie. And I forgot that they were doing it. I forgot that it was this spinoff that they were playing coy with. Is it before, during, after? They were never clear about when it was going to take place. Mm-hmm. But also the way it all starts off, the first third of the trailer, you have no idea Ana de Armas is in it at all. You don't know, because it seems like it's all flashback stuff. It's all about a young girl. We're seeing our familiar faces.
Yep.
I believe this is the last thing that Lance Reddick has unreleased to come out. Totally did not expect to see him or Ian McShane in this movie at all. It made sense to see Anjelica Huston. I didn't expect the other two.
Sure.
Very pleasant surprise.
Yeah, indeed. Just well cut trailer. Definitely pulling on the John Wick vibes. Showing us that yes, we're gonna do the good choreography. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it to the max. Which I'm here for.
It seems like she's able.
Put a grenade in man's mouth, and I'm going to close the door on him to block myself from the blast. Wow. And then she picked up an ice skate, and I got concerned. I did not want, because I've always had a little bit of a fear of
ice
skate murdering somebody.
I mean, there was a hockey player who died via ice skate in the UK like a year or two ago. There have been a couple of close calls in the NHL. I'm sure around the world there's been a handful of other close calls. You do see every once in a while, like,
Blades of Glory.
This guy might lose the use of his hand because like a tendon in his like wrist gets severed because it slipped between the pads and the glove.
No.
But
I'm talking about this.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
When you said she grabbed the ice skate to go after someone, I think of Happy Gilmore, where he talks about having 2 records as an amateur hockey player, most penalty minutes in a season, and he once tried to kill a guy with a skate.
It's so ridiculous. There's a whole ice skating sequence in the latest season of The Boys also. Anyway.
I'm still 2 seasons behind on that.
It's a tough, I like watching, I like that I've watched it, but I can't say that I like watching it. Like it's a little bit too gross sometimes.
They more than push the line.
Yeah. And,
I gotta be honest, spoiler alert, and I won't give any context for it, but I got to the point where I was like, okay, like, I feel like there's nothing really that can shock me at this point in this show. And the first episode, I think maybe the only episode of that season I saw, was there been 5 now?
I think so.
So the first episode of the 4th season, a man turns very small and goes inside another man's penis. And then he's not small anymore, and that doesn't go well for the other guy.
Right. Doesn't he, like, sneeze?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
That was shocking.
Yeah.
I would say shocking for shocking sake. But I didn't think they could continue to surprise me, and my hat is tipped to them. They did.
And here we are. Ballerina looks great. When is it coming out? Do we have a date on that?
There had to have been a date that I don't remember. I think it was January 2025. Or was that something we talked about last week? That might have been something we talked about last week. Something's kicking around in my head.
Let's see if I can find out. Why is George Clooney back in my screen?
He's on the escalator again.
Let's get his back. Oh, June 6th. I thought it was sooner than that, but that's fine. June 6th. That's when it's coming. Not a day goes by, not a day that I read about some kid.
There was something we were talking about last week. There had to have been a trailer we were talking about last week that was like January of 2025, because that date is sticking in my head and I don't remember
when is Thunderbolts coming out. That was May? That's May.
That was May.
February was the Captain America movie, right?
Something like that.
Brave.
Not important.
Was there something in January? Whatever.
Anyway, Ballerina, we're excited for it.
We're excited.
You should be
We're
too. If you listen to the show long enough, we did an episode on the first 2 John Wicks together. We did an episode on 3, and we did an episode on 4. If you're in on this podcast, I feel like you're in on John Wick.
You are. John Wick, the inspiration for one of my only articles for this binge shoot, which was a movie night with myself.
And
it was really a treat. I had some popcorn. I had some goobers. I had some
goobers.
I had some Kona.
You had a Conan. You remember that? Okay.
Yeah, because it was the first time I had it, I think.
Really?
It was a treat. It was a treat. And then the end, of course, the movie is just absolutely bonkers. Tell me, or you all can't see my eyes rolling. Tell me about DDL on retiring.
You're gonna unroll your eyes a little bit when.
All right, maybe we'll see.
Because the reason's pretty good. This is courtesy of.
Is he about to get up his ass for another part?
Well, that remains to be seen. That wouldn't make you unroll your eyes. This is courtesy of The Wrap. This is from last week or whenever it was. Daniel Day-Lewis comes out of retirement for his son's feature directorial debut. So he's coming out of retirement to work with his son.
Fine.
That's what I'm saying. You're going to unroll your eyes a little bit. Like, that's a pretty good reason.
I'll allow it.
So his son, Ronan Day-Lewis.
It's really funny if his son ends up just fucking hating actors.
Goddamn divas. His directorial debut is called Anemone. It's set as a Plan B and
complete anonymity.
Not that, as in C. It's set as a Plan B and Focus Features co-production. Daniel Day-Lewis has come out of retirement for his son's feature directorial debut. This will be his father's first acting role since Phantom Thread in 2017. It's perfect that you were trying to take back a delight this episode.
Yeah.
It will also star Sean Bean, Samantha Morton, Samuel Bottomley, and Sophia Oakley Green. It was co-written by the father and son pair. It explores the intricate relationships between fathers, sons, and brothers, as well as the dynamics of familial bonds. We could not be more excited to partner with a brilliant visual artist in Ronan Day-Lewis on his first feature film, alongside Daniel Day-Lewis as his creative collaborator. They've written a truly exceptional script, and we look forward to bringing their shared vision to audiences. And then this is a bunch of stuff in the weeds about production. Ronan Day-Lewis is an accomplished painter and filmmaker whose work was shown widely in the United States. His debut international solo exhibition opened a week ago in Hong Kong, with showings coming up in New York City and Los Angeles. That's kind of a cool thing to, I think that's a pretty good excuse to come out of retirement from acting.
Sure. I mean, like, is he going to like be in it, or just like a little, like a bit? Like
I don't know. I mean, if it's a movie about fathers and sons, it could be anything. It didn't say anything about the son being in it, so he might have a supporting role. I mean, I would assume it's more than a cameo. But maybe he's not the lead. It could very well be that Sean Bean and one of those other actors are the leads if this is about a father and son. So,
what's the name of this movie?
Anemone, Anemone. I'm 99% sure that's how you spell that word.
Hang on a second.
As in, like, sea anemones?
Why is there a movie called Anemone that came out this year?
I couldn't possibly tell you that.
We should watch that one instead. They're wildly different plots.
I mean, I would assume so.
I wonder if Sean Bean's going to make it.
There's a set photo of Sean Bean and Daniel Day-Lewis on looks like a scooter together.
They scooting along?
Yeah, helmets and everything.
Yeah, I see that. All right. Interesting. All right. Like you said, I'll allow it.
I figured you might.
Fine. That's fine. A dynamic duo.
Yes. Assuming my computer will let me load that story. This is on Deadline. The Robbins' origin story, dynamic duo in the works with DC Studios, WBPA, and Six in Idaho. The movie is to be made with puppetry animation. The movie coming out for DC that is going to be an animated movie that is going to be done via puppetry, which I thought would catch your interest.
Huh.
There's a cool project that just got greenlit at DC Studios and Warner Brothers Picture Animation called Dynamic Duo. The Six in Idaho movie is scripted by Matthew Aldrich, is being made by a new animation studio out of New Orleans named Swaybox, and that studio's husband and wife creators Arthur Mintz and Teresa Anderson. Mintz will direct this movie, which follows the early days of Dick Grayson and Jason Todd, a.k.a. the Robins. The storyline here isn't connected to Matt Reeves' Batman and the Penguin canon. Swaybox uses technology known as, quote, Momo animation, which is a cross between CGI animation, practical elements of stop motion, and live-action real-time performance. The result is long-form storytelling billed as visually breathtaking, dynamically expressive, and more human. I've wanted to make a film with Arthur and Swaybox for many years, and for that film to be a dynamic duo, an incredibly special and unique Batman and Robin story for families is a dream, said Reeves. So Reeves is one of the producers on this, even though it's not connected to his movies and show. Mintz, co-founder and co-CEO of Swaybox, is a graduate of Columbia University. He worked on the storyboard department on James and the Giant Peach and was one of the contributing writers of Moonbot Studios' Lost Ollie, which won multiple Emmys for Netflix. He has directed several award-winning puppet theater productions. Anderson, Swaybox's other co-founder and co-CEO, moved to New Orleans from Sweden when she was 18 to pursue a career in music. She's performed on Late Night with Conan O'Brien and with Craig Ferguson, and they've been doing this stuff together for 15 years.
Interesting.
I just thought that was such a...
It's so bizarre.
Yeah, like outside the box type of thing. I was like, that, if for nothing else, is like, I'm curious because like that's not something we do. It feels like there's been so much consolidation of animation styles and stuff like that. Like when you see things like the Spider-Verse, which are like so wildly different than so much of the other animation we're seeing, or you see something like this, you kind of got to give it some oxygen, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'll check it out. I'm really curious. I really want to see like just a little bit of like what it looks like.
Yeah, there was kind of a house style thing. There was like a tone thing about like, just like the title card. I didn't see any pictures or video of it or anything like it yet, like anything other that they work for. But now that you know their names, you can look it up and see if there's anything. I didn't get a chance to yet, but I saw the story. I was like, oh, that'll be a quick 2-second thing that me and Anthony could talk about that I think Anthony would be super interested in. So yeah,
definitely. I'll check that out. I'm really curious to see. I like a funky art style, so that'll be interesting. I mean, I don't know even remotely when that'll be coming out.
Yeah, I mean, those types of projects usually take a long time to do, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's early 2026 or something like that.
I typed in dynamic duo just to like movie to get like some like see if I can get any sort of visual or anything, and it's just a barrage of like Joker 2 hatred. It's really fun.
I did not add that to my rundown, but do you want to talk about that at all? Because I don't think you and me haven't really talked about it. Me and Mike, hey Mike again, have been talking about it a little bit.
I've caught glimpses of like just headlines and have been actively avoiding reading anything too detailed as I think I sent you to go in clean.
I think I sent you one thing about it. I know I talked about it a little bit with Mike.
The only thing that I read, and maybe this is the thing that you sent me, was so like I remember when when they talked about doing this movie, I very clearly remember like a thing that it was going to be a musical.
Yes.
And then I saw the trailers and I was like, oh, I guess they changed their mind.
Nope. They're doing that thing that trailers are doing lately when musicals come out where they lie to you in the trailer and have no evidence that it's going to be a musical in it.
Right.
Because that's happened like 3 or 4 times in the last 18 months.
So I feel like that's probably the root of a lot of anger.
Some of it is also because I don't care. I didn't really particularly like the first one. You liked it a lot more than I did.
I did.
Which is fine. I remember being interested. We talked about when they said it was going to be a musical when they announced it and all that, and like we're doing like early production. I remember being like, okay, like that's certainly an interesting way to go in a totally different direction from the first movie, which might be the only way that you're going to kind of cleanse my palate on this. But I still feel like I'm not super in on it or whatever. I don't care. I'll at some point I'll watch it. I'm not going to go to the theater for it, but if you want to do it when it hits like Max or whatever,
yeah, I definitely want to do it.
We can do it. It's fine. I will not have lost those 2 hours of my life, and we'll get an episode out of it. It's fine.
Yeah.
I did read what the ending is because actually the ending is what is driving everyone mad.
Oh, really?
I have not actually seen very many. I've seen some references to like the fact that it's a musical. That's not where the bulk of the complaining is coming from.
Okay, I can't wait to watch this.
The ending is driving people fucking insane. And I read the ending. Maybe you got to see it play out. to an extent, like I get why people are mad, but I feel like
I gotta see it. You're actually selling me on going to see this movie.
The thing is, it's one of those things where, like, when I read what it was, I was like, okay, like that is a way you could do this. I think people are feeling betrayed by it.
Sure.
That's what I don't understand. Like, for me, reading is like, I could see you liking or disliking it. And if you dislike it, like, I get why you wouldn't. Like, the personal betrayal thing is probably something you can only connect to if you...
taste of betrayal.
Yeah. It's probably something you can only connect to if you loved the first movie.
Got it.
Because, like, to me, like, I'm just like, that's a betrayal? Like, it's something you dislike, maybe.
I gotta see it.
Okay.
I gotta get the recipe from Liz. I'm more excited. I gotta say, my favorite, one of my favorite headlines that I've read was one that I stumbled through reading the headline because of the way that it was written, but it was like, this is the best made worst movie I've ever seen.
So that's the thing is, the one compliment I've seen is it's still like a gorgeous movie to look at. And, like, I will say the first one is shot really well. I mean, like, a very particular, like, style, but, like, it looks great. Like, it looks like a real fucking, like, oh, we're making a movie. Like,
we're doing a movie. Yeah, I want to see this. I want to see this now. I mean, I'm sure it'll be on Max in about 4 minutes.
Well, considering somehow it's come out and debuted both, and this is one of those things too where it's not like it's, oh, the critics hate it and the audience love it, or even vice versa. Everyone hates it. The critics hate it, the audience hate it, everyone hates it. It's debuted worse than Black Adam and Madame Web.
Oof.
It's going to be a gigantic financial boondoggle. It's the first movie, I think, had a budget of like $100 million and made over $1 billion worldwide. Smashing success. This one, the budget's like $200 million, and opening weekend was like, it was like $40 million or something like that.
Wow.
It was bad. It might have even been worse than that. I remember seeing the number. I was like, oof. Basically, they were saying, like, in order to break even, it's got to basically make almost $500 million worldwide, and it's off to a rough start.
Oh man, that's wild. I'm getting more excited to watch this.
I don't think I can justify paying and making the time, especially with the fucking other local theater closing by me. I don't remember if I told you that. I think I probably did.
Yeah.
So I don't think I can.
There was some sort of subscription service where you could go see as many movies.
I don't think I could justify paying and making the time to drive an hour round trip and see this movie for something that I already know is going to be some form of train wreck. That's a cynical project that I have no interest in to begin with. So,
what would the AMC novelty popcorn bucket look like for this movie?
I don't know. Is there a good answer to that?
I don't know. I was just curious. I was trying to think of what we can come up with.
I mean,
the Dune worm was one of the most horrendous things I've ever seen.
I mean, was it worse than? I mean, it did look like one of the worms from the movie.
Yeah.
Was it worse than the obvious send up of that they did for Deadpool and Wolverine, where it's just Wolverine's gaping mouth? Did you? I
don't think I saw that.
You never saw it?
No.
Ryan Reynolds literally is like, oh, so people are into fuckable popcorn buckets? Okay. Like, he literally said that. And they made one.
I love that.
And it's literally Wolverine, like, with his mouth wide open.
That's fantastic.
But you seriously never saw this?
I haven't seen it. No.
I'm going to find one. I'm going to send it to you right now.
That's great. That is really wonderful.
Oh, look at that. If I type in Wolverine into my Google search, the top search, Wolverine,
I might as well just go ahead and do that myself.
Then it says Deadpool and Wolverine. Then it says Wolverine movies. And underneath that it says Wolverine popcorn bucket.
Yep. Oh my God. That's terrible. And fantastic.
I mean, he literally said.
Yeah.
That's what he wanted to do.
Yep. Yeah, I can see that. Good for you, Ryan Reynolds. Just have it in the time of your life. I appreciate it. My goodness. Is there anything else for the news and nuggets section of this week?
No, that's all the news I got.
Well, I guess let's get back to consumption.
Well, I knew this was going to be a heavy consumption episode, considering it was a 2-week break. Plus, we had to talk about BEERFREST, even if it was a 1-week break. So,
Sure.
I actually do have consumption notes. So
I have some consumption. Well, let's go. Let's let you kick this off.
So I finally finished The Bear last week.
Wow! Congratulations.
Yeah, I had time to watch the last 2 episodes. I listened to the last of the Pack Your Knives episodes in support of it. I didn't feel the way they did. I think they were closer to the way you felt. They were kind of disappointed with it, but it was weird because they kept saying, "Oh, like I get why, like this is good and this is good and this is good," and they sounded so angry while they were saying it. And I'm like, I think they fell into the trap of, and I don't have anything to compare this against because they didn't. This is the first season they did this for, so it's not like I can go back and listen to what they were saying in the first 2 seasons. I think they fell into the trap of like the things that we talked about, like when The Last Jedi came out. I think they fell victim to their own expectations and perceptions of what they thought were going to happen in the season. And when those things didn't happen, they were acknowledging along the way things they liked, but what outweighed it was that the things that they didn't like lined up a lot with things that they didn't expect to happen or was not what they wanted to happen.
Sure.
That's a thing, like, right? Like it's not something I ever really engaged with before that movie came out. And I've tried to be careful about that sort of thing in the year since then, because understanding that phenomenon has allowed me to, I mean, like, there's still movies that I was expecting to like going into that I haven't liked, but I don't like take it personally. I think that's what is like, I think that's what's happening with those things. And maybe there's even a conversation about
fair.
that. There might even be a conversation with like the Joker movie where it's like, if you didn't have expectations of what that movie was going to be, maybe you would like it more. And maybe not. Maybe it's a dog shit movie. I don't know. But it sounds like people who loved that movie, the first one, hated the second one. I didn't love the first one. Maybe I'll like the second one better because I don't have that baggage. Although I'm guessing I won't particularly, but that's neither here nor there.
I liked the first one and have zero expectations for the second one because I thought the first one was the whole story.
There's a compelling argument to be made for that as well. That's almost a whole separate conversation.
Sure.
So I ended up liking this 3rd season of the show. Mm-hmm. It sounded like you didn't love it.
No, I 90% like the show. It's the only season, though, that I had 2 major gripes with.
Okay.
The first one is that I get what you're doing with the first episode. Like, I understand, like, the artistic choices being made. Wasn't for me. Didn't like it.
Okay, because I remember that's the big thing I remember you complaining about from this season. I couldn't remember exactly what you said, but I remember you didn't like it.
To me, it felt like a 40-minute recap of everything.
So I remember you saying that, and I disagreed with that when I watched it, because I think I watched it like a week after we talked about it. And I liked it. I get why someone wouldn't like it, but I think, yeah, you basically kind of said, like, oh, this was like a recap. It could have been a 5-minute recap before the season. Like, it felt like a waste of your time. I didn't agree with that. I actually really liked it. Yes, it was trying to do something super artsy that they hadn't quite done. They've done a handful of like super artsy things over the course of the show, but this was the first time they did this specific type of thing. I thought it was meant to be a pretty important reflection on how a person's consciousness is kind of starting to unravel. We do get some recap, but so much of that is flashback to before the show that I think it stands alone in its own way of we need to take a second to consider exactly how and why this person is the way they are and how and why they are reacting in this moment to the things that are going on. Yeah. And there's this kind of idea. Actually, I like the way that one of them, I think it was Kevin Arnovitz, said in the Pack Your Knives later in the season, but I think he was drawing a parallel between that and something that happened towards the end of the season. The idea of how consciousness, like it being a really cool way to like, to show how consciousness works, where it's iterations. Like when you think about something, especially when you get caught up thinking about something, right? You keep iterating and iterating and iterating and iterating in this like recursive loop that may or may not be productive towards whatever you're trying to do or trying to process or trying to remember, and how you can almost betray yourself with your perceptions of what that reality of that memory is. So I thought it was a really cool episode.
And that's totally fair, and I don't fault anybody for that. I mean, I've heard people talk at length about how they love that episode. It's just not for me, and I'm okay with that. And this is the thing: I'm not taking a person. I'm just
I that's fine.
I watch, but that's the thing, right? You can dislike a piece of something and move on from it. Like I'm okay with that.
and that's I'm glad
just
that
a lesson for other folks.
I'm glad that you did. To me, my biggest distinction between what you said and how I interacted with it was, I did think they were treading new ground, even if that new ground was largely in the past.
That's fair, and I know that I think there might be something to be said about like the amount of time that I got to sit with having seen the second season before seeing this, where like maybe they didn't show all of these things, but I've connected the dots on Carmi, and like I get, like I don't need any further explanation. Like I get why he does the things that he does. Like I just feel like I understand the character.
So the one thing that I didn't fully appreciate when I watched this episode, until watching how the season unfolded, was what they were showing you was he got to experience the entire spectrum of what those mentorship type of roles can be in that world, and that he very easily could go down a path of not being a huge piece of shit, and he isn't. Because if we only saw the Joel McHale character, we understand how abuse perpetuates abuse, right?
Yep.
It's something we know about in all different forms of life now. But that coupled with might have been the final episode, or if not, it was the second to last episode, when they show the flashback to his first day when they give him the responsibility to cook the family meal, and that older and the older chef is teaching him. That is such a positive and nurturing relationship that I was so shocked to see, because he could have been like, do you not know how to do fucking anything?
Right.
Like, I have 100 million things that are more important to do than to teach you how to tie up the fucking legs of this chicken.
Right.
And instead he devotes a substantial amount of time to not just teaching him, but connecting with him.
Right.
The person whose name he doesn't know.
Beautiful scene. Like, a really excellent.
And to watch that, and if you want to say, like, you turn it up a degree, like, the chef in Copenhagen that he learns from, pretty positive overall.
Yeah.
You want to turn it up a step from that. There's a little passive aggressiveness from Chef Terry, but overall, she's still a pretty positive mentor.
Yeah.
And then you turn it up and you go all the way to the other end of the spectrum, and it's Joel McHale, who's just brutally terrible to him. I thought it was really important to see the arc of that over the course of this season, which they laid the groundwork for in that first episode, where my appreciation for the first episode actually grew over the course of watching the whole season and seeing how it laid those threads out.
I think that makes total sense. I feel like I've been so on board with the exploration of trauma in this series that, like, I don't know. I would happily rewatch all 3 seasons.
Yeah,
and I would rewatch the episode again. Yeah, maybe passively, but I just love the show. The other thing that I didn't love was the.
You said you felt like it was like not a real season; that it was just a handoff to the next season.
Almost like I feel like they could get. I don't know what else they're trying to do, but it felt like they could have closed out the story in another 2 or 3 episodes.
So they made an interesting thing, and this is something they're in the weeds on this stuff that I'm not in a way. So that was part of why I found them to be interesting, even though I didn't agree with all their takes. I did find that there was some structural and historical stuff from like the making of this show and the behind the scenes of the show, where like they were in the weeds of like some of the interviews and like the behind the scenes stuff that like went into the making of the show. I think they were greenlit to do an extra season of the show than they anticipated when they first pitched it.
Oh, interesting.
And so they were surmising that they had mapped out the final season, and it's not this season, it's the next season, and they had to come up with, like, they must have had, we have like 30% more that we'd like to do, we don't think we'll get to in a final season, and when they gave them a whole extra season, they had to come up with more stuff to build out that season.
Well, that's totally that tracks really well because it feels like we're rapidly approaching closing the last closing the back cover of the book, and it just felt that's what felt weird. It felt like you have you're going towards something, you're getting there. Like it's like you could see where it's going. And I don't know what the decisions they're going to make are, but you could see where it's going, and it seemed like they were like they're ready to like newsroom style. Ready to be done and going to finish the story, but then they didn't, and it's like we're going to come back. So that makes sense that there's a potential like studio situation going on there.
I think they were a little too harsh in their criticism, but I do think their argument holds weight. That and I think the best evidence for this is like most of the main storylines that are introduced at the end of season 2 and the beginning of season 3, you kind of still have like blue balls for at the end of the season. Right, like Sydney looks like she's on the precipice of wanting to leave. We get zero closure on that over the course of the season. They introduced the idea of this review thing really early on. You don't ever actually 100%. You get a tease on that, but you don't ever actually get in any real shape of way.
Right
now, I thought they didn't give enough credit to. There were other storylines that, and even the Claire thing, you could say like they kind of tease it out without any resolution of any substantial thing. Sugar finally having the kid and how that changes the dynamic in the restaurant, that's a pretty substantial thing to happen during the course of the season. Now, you could say whether or not you should be building the season around that. That's a totally fair argument to have. But, like, irrefutably, that is a thing that was set up in the last season that we get a resolution on in this season.
Sure.
Sugar, and to an extent, Carmy and the rest of them having a reckoning with the mother also is a thing that happens in this. Now, those two things happen in the same exact episode, but regardless, those are two major storylines that weren't necessarily had to be intertwined that end up dovetailing in the course of that. I thought that was a great episode. Of the two of them, one of them seemed to actually pretty much like that episode, although was like frustrated with like where it was deployed in the course of the season, just from a sense of like derailing the arc of the season. But like loved it for what it represented in and of itself. The other person didn't like it as much. That's fine, whatever. Like it was more one of those things where like kind of like what you said, where it's like I like appreciate it, but I didn't enjoy it type of thing. And it was like that's fair. Like you can like we've done that before. Like even to an extent, like Joker we were just talking about before. Like I get to an extent why people like it. It's just not for me. Like there are some objective merits to that movie that are just don't make it enough for me to like connect with it in a way that like I care about it.
Sure.
I liked this season. I think I liked it a bit more than the consensus. They had a conversation about where these episodes scored as like aggregate scores versus ones from the first 2 seasons. I think two things can be true and kind of mutually exclusive. I agree that this is the least good of the 3 seasons. But that doesn't mean it's not good, in my opinion.
Sure.
Like, I think just because this is less than the first 2 seasons, I still really liked the season.
Absolutely. I just think that the first 2 seasons set in a tremendously high bar. And part of it, I do think, like, I am a little bit more forgiving with the context of maybe there was, like, we've said we're always for make the amount of episodes that you need to tell the story.
Yeah.
And if that was not the case here, that actually makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
And it allows me to excuse it because I don't blame like the creators or whatever the show. Like there's just
considering how many shows are getting canceled ahead of their end date.
Yeah.
It's rare that we got a show that we're like, oh, you only wanted to do 3 seasons, but we really would like you to do 4. It's like, what are you gonna say no?
Right. Yeah. It's just
like you've built an economy now. Like it's not even just like the creators. Like there's all these actors and actresses. What are you going to deny them the ability to get paid on this? Like you do your best. Maybe they could have done a slightly better job, but like I still think it's a good season. I didn't totally adore the first season the way that so many people did. I thought it was good. I liked it. I think it was the second best season of the 3 seasons. The second season is really, really excellent. It really
is. It's something.
I think it's substantially better than the first season. Still like the first season.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people view the first 2 seasons as about the same. I don't. I think the second season is really excellent.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that.
So
I think the second season is fantastic. I love I love the vignette styles storytelling of like the individual people, and then but they tie. That's the thing though, right? They did that part well in the third season too, of giving us like the pockets and like letting like one character simmer for a bit and kind of explore them a little bit more. But the way that the second season ties that back to the main storyline from beginning to end, like there's a whole thing there. The fact that the third season doesn't end, it doesn't complete a storyline, like that doesn't complete like some main theme that it set out to. Like they, like you said, they mention the review and they get to the review and they stop, and it's like I'm glad there's going to be another season, but I think I would be curious if, like, going forward, if you like after this is all said and done, if you watch the third and fourth season together, I wonder if they will become the best season.
Well, and you can try to draw I know this is going to be fraught for you, but you can draw a comparison to the way The Sopranos ended, where the final season is really two split seasons. Neither of those split seasons was as long as any of the individual seasons before that. So it was like 150% of a season that was split into two, So maybe ultimately that's how it'll feel watching the third and fourth season together.
Yeah.
And if you want to talk about it, in like the first season is about the beef, and the second season is about creating a restaurant. The third and fourth season are about the restaurant, right? Like, like that could be end up being the way it goes with all that.
Yeah. I'm excited to see more. I'm ready to rewatch the whole thing. So it's just such a great show.
Yeah.
And that's just it. Like to be able to like, it sounds. I feel like it sounds more dire than it is. Like when I talk about the third season, I really liked it.
Yeah.
I had a couple issues with it, and I don't really know that I had a couple issues with the other seasons. Like not in this big of a way. Which is fine.
I thought the drama was a little melodramatic in the first season. I thought they did a better job of like smoothing that out and feeling like the drama was attached properly to the stakes in the second one. Plus, I think they did a better job of balancing the whole palette of emotions that they wanted to create. Like it's like this is treated as a comedy for award season because it's a half hour, I guess, which is stupid, but whatever, that is what it is. And the show certainly has comedic elements, but it's not really a comedy. I would say it's closer to the way a drama functions, but there's a lot of different tones that a drama can take on. And I thought they did a really good job in the second season of blending and mixing and matching and coming and going and cycling in and out of all of those different things in a way that I didn't think they had that same level of polish and balance in the first season.
Yeah, that's fair.
The third season, my really only issues with it are in the really big picture of the structure of like, yeah, you could say there's not a ton. If I were to make an argument as to what the third season's about, it's Carmi has lost control entirely. He's fully spun out.
Yeah.
The way they choose to execute that's pretty subtle, I think. We see major swings and ups and downs in the first two seasons. We know that this is a person who doesn't have their shit fully together, but at no point really, except for the time that he starts that fire, do we think he's like someone who's like losing control.
Right.
And after that, them starting this whole restaurant and him getting a girlfriend, it seems like he set himself on path. And it's like, okay, so that's just like a blip in time. And I think that the third season is what the third season's actually about is him finally fully going off the rails.
Yeah.
And that's a bit subtle.
And the deep impact that it has on everybody around him, because he is leading this group of people that are looking up to him / relying on him for inspiration and kind of carrying the vision. But he is spinning out, and the growing impact that has on everybody else is just it's there.
Well, they were all the kids are worried about becoming the mother. Sugar most explicitly saying it, and she's the one who's least like her. She is pretty emotionally balanced. Like, she's not perfect. No one is, but like, she is a real human being who thinks and feels and is trying to do better, and she has some level of balance in her life, even though everything is on fire on her all the time. Michael clearly couldn't do all of that. He is the one who doesn't ever in any way, shape, or form seem to indicate that he's worried about becoming her. He is unfortunately also the one who ends up killing himself.
Right.
Carmi is the one who you can see it weighs on him, but you never get the sense that he's like, oh, I'm afraid to be her. It's more just like, I'm just going to push her off to the side. That's like a thing I'm not going to think about and engage with. Yeah. He's the one who's following that path. Yeah. He's the one who's actually following that path.
Yep.
He's the one who, because they're trying to do all these things, is the one who's dragging them all down around him.
Right. I'm
excited
for the next season.
The whole show, like that whole season, is a microcosm of her cooking the fishes. Right? Or macrocosm, right? Sydney wants to help. She wants to go through the menu with him. He just tells her all the things that he's going to do.
Yeah.
How is that any different than Sugar trying to come in and help her cook and her telling her to get the fuck out of her way?
Yeah.
They're no different.
No. I love that.
And then again, the same thing, like the emotional unavailability. How is his meltdown in the cooler any different than Sugar asking her if she's fine and her finally snapping and saying, no one would even give a shit if I wasn't here and all this sort of stuff? Meanwhile, someone 2 seconds ago was literally asking you. They were demonstrating to you. They care about what you think and that you're there.
Right.
And they're trying to help you. And they like physically cannot engage in that.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a deep exploration of mental illness and psychoses and stuff in there, which is
absolutely
great. But yep, I'm looking forward to see what they do with it. Do we know when season 3 part 2 is coming out?
Probably in the summer, the way the last 3 seasons have come out.
Well,
it's the only show that's on schedule in all of television land.
Oh, I thought there was a significant break between 2 and 3.
It's been about a year, I think, between each season. Wow. Maybe I'm misremembering because I didn't watch the first 2 seasons concurrently, but sure. I know that like it's been like every year, you know?
Oh, neat. Cool. What else are you watching?
Well, I was going to give you an opportunity to mention one of yours if you have a few, because I was trying to look up.
I'm going to go on with Agatha All Along.
All right. Before you do that, then I'm going to just read these dates. June of 2022, first season. June of 2023, second season. June of 2024, third season. All of them in the final week of June.
Okay, great. Cool. So we can potentially look forward to that.
Season 4 just says 2025, but I'm going to guess June.
June of 20. Fair enough. So I'm now 3 or 4 episodes into Agatha All Along.
Okay.
And I'm into it.
Oh, nice.
I will say, like I said, like after the first episode, I like didn't quite know what the vibe was, what we were actually doing. Some of the choices felt a little algorithmic.
Okay.
And then now that they're getting into the story and like the world building around the witches, very cool. And like what they're doing is very cool. It is the perfect time of year for it. It's got just the right amount of spooky. It's got Marvel comedy charm, but it doesn't feel like a Marvel property.
Okay.
Which I think is interesting. And maybe one of my biggest takeaways from it is that this show doesn't feel like it's trying to be in the MCU. And I'm sure at some point it will. I'm sure that where it's building towards feels pretty obvious to me, and I do think like that's how it will tie back in. But at least for the length of what they're doing, it's got its own little story to tell and its own kind of unique rule set and universe, and they've built it out really well, and I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
It's goofy.
Yeah.
You know, it's got its silly moments, but it's cool. Like Agatha is trying to get her groove back and gets a coven of witches together to go down the witches' road, where at the end of which she'll be able to kind of get what she wants.
To be a wizard.
But the witches' road is very dangerous, and there's a bunch of trials along the way. So each episode takes on the trial of one of the witches in the coven.
Okay.
And like, so you get, that's how you kind of get, it's similar to like the bear, like these vignette stories, like selling mechanics, like, oh, we're going to focus on this character and why they are the way they are, and like all of the mystery around them, and unfold the whole story. And that's been cool, because you could just like a nice bite size, like, let's watch this one episode, digest the whole thing and enjoy it. And then the bookends of the episode kind of pull you back into the main storyline. Obviously there's like little sprinkles here and there that are unfolding more pieces of information. But it's just been a pleasant watch.
That's good.
Yeah, I've been enjoying it. Also, the performances are great. As we have mentioned a million times before, Catherine Hahn is just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And Aubrey Plaza is a complete nut bar.
She's having a moment.
She's having a moment. No, it's great.
I've been waiting for you to say her name this whole time. I'm sorry.
She's a green witch, and
the colors matter.
The colors matter. And
now, not a green witch in the sense of like Wicked, but
no,
okay.
She's just a green witch, and but she has this thing, like she will like have like a tick here and there, mm-hmm. where like she'll come out with this voice like that, it's out of nowhere for like a portion of the sentence, and it's just really funny when she does it.
Did you ever watch Legion?
No.
Neither did I, but she was in that, and I heard that show became pretty excellent by the end. I remember being pretty fatigued on the X-Men universe at that time, and so I didn't have any interest in watching it when it came out.
Sure.
And by the time the show ended, I felt like I made a mistake, because what I was hearing built around, and it was a pretty niche show,
mm-hmm.
but the cult following and like the handful of critics that I saw talking about it were so into it by the end,
right?
And her being a big part of that I was like, fuck, I might have made a mistake like not watching that.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way too. I remember hearing a lot of good things or a lot of hype, but just for instance, she's like in front, like she was talking to the group of people, and she's like walking away, and a couple of other witches are talking. They're like, oh, she's a green witch. And she like immediately snaps back in. She goes, I'm the green witch. And she's like, what's going on? Like, you're just nuts. And it's really funny. And I love it. It's very silly. There is also another one of the witches in the coven can commune with the other side, or more importantly, is a vessel for the other side communing with people, and it will randomly be saying things, but doesn't know she's saying them because they've taken over her body for a moment. And the best part, like the shtick, is people having a conversation with her and like saying something kind of out of nowhere, and like they're trying to continue the conversation and not understanding like what she's talking about. And then when she snaps to, she's like, "What?" And it's great. It's just a really silly, dumb Abbott and Costello thing that they've got going on, and I really like it. But it's been a fun watch, and it's perfect for the season.
All right, I might get to that in a couple years.
Yeah, in a couple Octobers.
Yeah, I mean October would be the time.
Yeah, for sure. What else you got?
I will do a quick one because I had hoped to get to 2 episodes of this, and I have not. But I got to 1 episode of this, and I started watching The Penguin this weekend.
Yay!
I know there's 3 episodes out now?
There's 3. I've watched 2.
Okay. I was hoping to get to the second one. I watched the first one on Saturday night. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I definitely think I will be in on this one for the duration pretty heavily. I'm going to probably still be a few weeks behind wherever the show is going, but I am definitely going to be in to try to finish this at or near the completion of the season.
I will say, even when the story beats have a lull, his performance is fucking bonkers. Like,
but the first episode though really didn't have any lulls. Like, you know, it was some stuff that was like, okay, like there's both a lot going on and not much going on all at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, he definitely is the glue that holds it all together. And he is ridiculous. It took me a second to realize because it's Oswald Cobblepot in like the comics and all that, right? But he's just Oz Cobb.
Yeah.
Which is, I thought it was funny that he like somehow his last name managed to get a nickname as well.
Yeah. But it's ridiculous. Oswald Cobblepot, it's a ridiculous name.
Yeah, it is.
I will say one of the things that every time it happens, I do a little head tilt. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Oh, like he's got this penguin persona that he's created. It's 90% the costume, right?
Which didn't really factor into the first episode, so I guess I'll wait to see that.
So it's 90% the costume, it's 10% whatever accent he's doing.
So his accent, I'm not crazy. His accent is different all the time, right?
It's all over the place.
Because I remember him being more high pitched in the first episode, in the movie rather, and he's not really in the first episode.
I don't remember him being high pitched in the movie. I think it's pretty consistent with the movie. But the choice, the phrasing of things is a little bit in and out, and the thing that gets me every time is he adds a lot of I's after O's, like woik and goils, and it drives me up a wall. But I think it also is very silly.
Well, I think part of the reason I have this perception of being a little higher pitched is I think it's specifically the scene when they chase him down after the arms deal or something that they were doing.
Oh yeah.
And they have him tied up, and they're having the whole argument with him, and it was like it's Batman and Gordon and him, and he's tied up to the wall. Mm-hmm. He's very animated in that scene, and he's very high pitched, and in my mind, that's how he sounded in the whole movie, even though it probably isn't true. But I can't access what he said.
No, you're onto something though. He turns into a squawking bird when he is tied to a chair. It happens multiple times in this season.
But that's the thing is most of the first episode he's not. It's only basically 90% of the way through the episode that finally happens in the first one, where he was so much deep. I was like, man, I feel like he was doing almost like a Pittsburgh fucking Yinzer but high pitched accent in the movie, and he's now he sounds kind of like a New York mobster. Yeah. In the most of the first episode, I'm like, am I just totally misremembering that? Because in my mind, all I can access is that one scene, not really how he sounds in the rest of that movie.
Sure.
And he's only really got a handful of scenes, but
yeah, it's really good. The show is really I am super invested at this point.
I like the Wesley Dread Pirate Roberts thing he's got going on with that kid in the first episode. I don't know if that continues on through the whole rest of the thing, where he's he keeps getting to the point of he's going to kill this kid. Yeah. He's not going to kill this kid. He's very good night, Wesley. It's very likely that I shall kill you in the morning. That went on for 3 years or whatever it was.
Look at the sunset. No. Not going to do that.
It's all right, well, then you shut up because I'm going to sit here and look at the sunset or sunrise, whatever it was.
Oh, man. I'm glad you're watching it. That's fun. I
had a choice to make because the Rings of Power just ended and Penguin is not yet halfway through the season. And I was like, which one do I tackle first? And I was like, there is a chance I could ultimately, I don't know that I will, but there's a chance I could catch up to Penguin before it ends. So I might as well try and get on the train.
Yeah, especially since it's a one and done.
Into the station and then come back to Rings of Power when there's time. Yeah. So that's the decision I made.
That seems like a good move to me. I'm excited to watch I think the third episode is out. So the fourth is coming Sunday. Up soon. So we got do 2.5 weeks left. It's a 6 episode.
That's what I wasn't sure. I thought we talked about it being 5 episodes, but I don't think it is actually. I think it's longer than that. Oh. I got to double check, but I looked at it really quick.
Let's see what we got. 8 episodes. The Penguins is 8 episodes in total. Okay, so we'll be halfway there on Sunday. Cool. Okay. One of my consumptions this week was homework for next week, which is I finally saw Deadpool and Wolverine.
So now, is it on Disney? Was I right about that when I
don't know, but it is purchasable.
Oh, it is.
It wasn't on Disney, but you can buy it now digitally.
I got to double check. I could have swore my sister had told me that it was going on to one of the streaming services. I thought it was Disney, but maybe it wasn't.
But yeah, I got that. I enjoyed my time with it. I'm probably going to end up rewatching it because I feel like there's so many jokes that I've missed because it's joke after joke after joke. There were some really great ones in there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watching it again and then conversing about it with you next week.
Yeah, maybe it's not streamable for free. I don't know why. I thought that it was because I think
because it's still in theaters.
Is it?
Some places, yeah.
Because I did see a commercial the other day that it was available on digital.
Yeah.
Which usually when they announce that for the bigger release, I know that some of these movies that are going almost it's day plus 7 or something like that, where it's in theaters for a week and then it's available. this was in theaters for like 6 weeks or more before it was available on digital. So I assumed maybe that meant that the theatrical run was over, but I could be wrong. I did want to
limited at least, because where I've seen it, it's only got like 2 showings. But
okay, I did want to rewatch before the next episode. I'm not 100% sure I'll get to it yet, but I mean, I still remember it well enough. I'll probably read something to brush myself back up on like some of the specific lines. I remember all the beats of the movie, but some of the
call her Blind Al. Yeah, I had a good time with it. I want to watch it again.
We will have a guest next week. Gianna is confirmed that she wants to go. We were obviously initially going to do that this week. We will be doing it next week. She has acquired a beer for us, which I will give to you on Saturday, so we can all be drinking the same beer.
Cool. Thanks, G.
Will not tell you what that beer is, but you will be excited to have it.
Awesome.
I have a handful of beers to deliver to you because I forgot to give them to you when you were here, along with you left without your Stein. So I will be bringing.
I realized I'm excited about my Stein because it's the perfect vessel for caramelizing my beers.
Really?
Yeah, because sometimes they have a reaction, and you need to contain that reaction. And if I pour, say, a pint in that gigantic glass, I should be able to contain the reaction.
Okay.
So I'll be messing around with that. We've also been watching a great deal of Hocus Pocus.
Like more than once?
Oh, yes. Elio is obsessed with Hocus Pocus right now. He's obsessed with witches entirely and has decided that he will be a witch for Halloween.
Nice.
Yeah. He's got an orange and black cape and a hat and a broom, and he's so jacked up. It's really funny.
So this is Hocus Pocus themed, right? Because doesn't Danny have like a black and orange?
It's not quite what she's got going on.
Just my color scheme.
Yeah, but it is a black and orange.
Doesn't she? Her socks are like black and orange and red and yellow or something like that.
I think her hat is black with orange trim, and her vest is like black with orange trim. Maybe she has like an orange like tutu type thing going on.
Or maybe it was I don't know why I thought in my mind it was like she had like long socks or stockings or something like that.
I think there are. Maybe an orange black.
They're like
orange
striped,
black stripe,
isn't it? Like
yeah. We actually we did come across socks like that we could have bought them, but we didn't get them from. So he's gonna be a witch, and Ian is gonna be a monkey. So I feel like we can kind of just like fudge that he's a flying monkey and kind of merge these two things together into a themed ensemble. Anyway, there's a lot of witches in the neighborhood.
There's definitely a lot of orange on her. I just looked her up right now.
No,
I don't see the sock. I don't see. Hang on a second. Okay, they weren't striped. It was just a solid color like orange, but she's got a lot of orange up in the vest area.
Max loves your yabos.
I think I literally turned on the TV, or maybe I walked in and my mom was watching it. It was literally that scene, and that was the last thing I heard before I walked out of the room.
It's fantastic.
Just started laughing.
He loves them.
I was like, man, like what a painfully awkward scene.
Yeah. It's beautiful. What else are you consuming?
Let me reconsult the list. I watched a movie kind of spur of the moment on Saturday morning. This is one of those classic eating breakfast, Saturday morning, don't have anything to do. What am I going to like put on? Flipping through the channels, nothing's really calling me. And I see something that has started about 3 minutes earlier. I was like, I've never watched this, but I have read this. Let's throw it on. I'll probably get up and do something else at some point or other. I didn't. I watched the entire movie, minus those first 2 to 3 minutes. I watched Runaway Jury.
Oh.
Starring John Cusack and others.
Yeah.
Came out in the early 2000s. So I
remember seeing that.
That is a Grisham novel. I've read the novel.
That was a Blockbuster rental for me.
I had never seen the movie. I want to say it's 2003. Really good cast, as all of those Grisham movies have. I was surprised that Gene Hackman was in it, because that would mean he's in 2 of the Grisham movies, not playing the same character. Mm-hmm. He was in The Firm, and he's also in Runaway Jury. It was interesting. I definitely realized I was hazy on the details of the book. I remember the really broad strokes. Like I remember the gist of like what the whole like main thing is, but not all of the little nitty gritty that gets to where it's all going. Also, it was hard to graft it fully one to the other because they change what the case is about. In the book, the trial is about people suing big tobacco.
Okay.
Whereas this is about suing gun companies and gun control.
Okay.
So they changed the plot, which makes a certain amount of sense considering the timeline of when the book was written versus when it happened. Like, that book was written, I want to say, in the early 90s. And it was before most of the country started, like, banning smoking indoors.
Mm-hmm.
Versus by the time this movie came out, that had already been taking place. And so, like, that story had clearly been written, so they decided to pick a different hot button subject, which makes a certain amount of sense. So it doesn't graft 100% onto it because of that, but they definitely sensationalized some of the, much in the way they did with The Firm, where they created a couple of action sequences that I don't recall being part of the book, which is fine. It made for a more cinematic experience, but it is a little different when you're talking about these books are largely in, and some of them have like thrilling sequences in the sense of, oh god, what's going to happen? But it's much more about like research and argument in the courtroom and all that sort of stuff versus someone chasing someone through an alleyway or something like that. But yeah, no, I mean, it was still an interesting, entertaining watch. Nice. You know, not a great movie, but it was a good, solid watch.
Yeah, good movie. Good, you know, entertainment.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Like, I like vividly remember, like, when going to a restaurant with my family and them asking
smoking or no smoking. Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which in retrospect is insane because if you're smoking in a restaurant, it's all smoking.
Yeah, I will say
it's just smoking or less smoking, not smoking.
There was there was a dessert place by the pizzeria, Desserts Plus, rest in peace. That had, it actually used to be Select Video, which was in the good old days.
Had to deal with.
Yeah, it was in the good old days. It was the pizzeria, the dessert place, and the movie and the video rental place. The video rental place closed. The dessert place took over that spot and kind of converted it into a bigger dessert place. And I remember that vividly because the area that used to be behind the counter, they actually put up a wall with a window that blocked that section off, and that was the smoking section, which they actually had. They basically created enough of a barrier where you actually didn't feel the smoke. I
know for a fact one of the restaurants we used to go to a lot, this probably would have literally been in like the year or two before that was cut off. It was a restaurant that we used to go to a lot that was right near where our apartment was before we moved into this house when we lived across the river. And the smoking section and the non-smoking section was delineated by a half wall. Like what was in my kitchen.
Yeah.
Like, it was literally
That's so silly.
Your booth, if you were on the edge of the non-smoking section, could have been on the edge of the smoking section. Now, there was a substantial amount of the non-smoking section that was not adjoining that half wall.
Sure.
But a substantial section of it that was.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, we're in the non-smoking section, and yet someone has a cigarette in their hand 3 feet away from me.
How does gas work? It smokes. All those things. Do they take up space? Yeah, that's a whole. What a weird time. It's so crazy to think about, like when we were kids, just quite how much smoke there was going around.
Yeah, I guess it didn't really, like, I don't want to say that it didn't bother me or whatever, but it wasn't really front of mind when I was a kid because, like, they weren't smoking in the elementary school.
No,
that was where most of my time was spent, right?
I noticed how much there was once it was gone.
When it was being phased out, because I think there was like a grace period or whatever as like places got compliant or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also the type of thing for me where, like, even now, like secondhand smoke, like it's not that it doesn't bother me. It's like you just kind of ignore it unless someone blows it directly into your face, you know?
I find it a little much for me.
I mean, I'm not saying I like it. It's just like.
But like nauseating.
Oh yeah, that doesn't happen to. Well, Kim gets that really badly, right?
Yeah. Well, that was years of growing up with it.
Okay, I mean that makes sense.
There's a component.
No, I mean that's fine. It does affect people differently. My sense of smell isn't the best anyway. Like I can smell fine if something's right up in front of me, but like I don't have like a great like range.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. It's one of those. I mean, it's probably better that we weren't all just inhaling smoke all the time. But like as a kid, like if when you're 8 years old, when it's not the summer, you're spending 60% of your time like in a school. They weren't smoking in the school, so
no, that's fair.
Like
I spent a lot of time at the pizzeria, so
yeah, you spent a lot more time there. For me, like we would go out to dinner maybe every other week or something like that. Like we weren't like going out to dinner all the time. So it was like, oh, every other week, sometimes someone has a cigarette somewhere. It's like, it wasn't like something I
feel as prevalent.
Like there was even times where it was like, we would go to the restaurant that I was talking about that was like super busy, super popular, and be like, it's 45 minutes for smoking and 90 minutes for non-smoking. And like my parents would be like, oh, well, we don't really want to be in the smoking section. I'm like, I'm starving. Let's just go in the smoking section. It's fine. Like 11-year-old me.
Right. Wow. What a weird time. What else are you consuming? Anything else?
You asked that as I was consuming a sip of beer. On the note of last episode and what you mentioned briefly, that was definitely a carryover from last episode. I watched a George Clooney movie. I watched Wolves, that new movie that came out on Apple TV with Brad Pitt and George Clooney.
Wait, I thought you watched that last week.
We didn't talk about it.
Not last week. I thought were you talking about wanting to watch that?
Yes, I think so.
Okay, got it.
I definitely texted you when I watched it.
So confused.
But that was like 2 days after we recorded.
Got it.
Because I think I was like, hey, I watched that George Clooney movie. I think we did talk about it as part of that whole conversation. Like, oh, that movie just came out. So I watched it. It was fun. It was an interesting, fun movie. It was the two of them play fixers. They're rival fixers who have to fix the same job. And hijinks ensue.
I like that. It. I'm in. Maybe I'll catch that when I when I actually kick back up the Apple TV subscription for Shrinking this month.
I was going to say, you're going to have to, because Shrinking is about to come out.
I'm so excited.
I think it's next week.
What a great show. It is. It is indeed. Next Wednesday.
And I still want to get to Bad Monkey as well, which is like, it's funny that I guess Bill Lawrence is kind of sort of running Apple TV, because Bad Monkey ends, Shrinking begins.
But it's funny. You had mentioned Bad Monkey. Was it last week or while we were? I don't remember.
I think it was last episode.
But I was listening to another podcast where they were talking about how all these shows that they're watching on Apple TV, and the one guy goes, "Can I just say, like, I don't know what they're doing. It's like, we have the best shows, and we're just not going to advertise them."
They were literally talking about that on the Levitard show either yesterday or today. I forget when I was listening to that. About how there was a period of time where Apple was spending like more than Netflix and Max like combined for a minute, and how like currently almost every show that they're running is fucking fantastic,
right?
But no one is talking about any of the shows. Oh, like Ted Lasso, everyone's talking about Ted Lasso, and like since that ended, no one is talking about any of the shows.
Right.
Like you have to really look for there are niche people who were like, this show is incredible. That's fans and critics. Like critically, all these shows are being like acclaimed.
Yeah.
The people who are actually watching the shows are loving them, but there aren't that many people actually watching the shows. Part of the conversation today about that was exactly what you just said. Like, are they just not promoting it enough? And like, I have seen stuff. Like, I did see commercials for Bad Monkey when it was coming out.
Sure.
And I have seen promos for the movies that they've done. I saw promos for Wolves. But yeah, I don't really see a lot of promotion for the shows.
I kind of wonder if they're just playing the long game here, where they're probably making enough on the subscriptions that they can keep it going for now. They
announced a few months ago that they're going to seriously draw down the spending. The spending.
Okay. Well, because I was curious if they were just trying to build out the library much larger before making another big push.
Maybe
so they have like a big thing to like, or like, so the sizzle reel looks ridiculous, right? Where they show like all the things that they have. But anyway,
because I mean, like the new season of Severance is only a few months away, right? Like,
that's January, isn't it?
I think that is, but I don't think that's what we were talking about in this episode.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
it's George Clooney.
Deeply not important, but
is George Clooney coming out in January? Phrasing. Yes. What else I have on my list? West Wing. I'm deep in the 3rd season of West Wing.
Okay.
Mike,
of 5?
Of 7. Apparently. Mike said that there were 7. I was like, what? And then I went and looked today, and I was like, sure enough, there are 7.
Oh, sorry. You guys were talking about it during BEERFREST.
Yeah. Hi, Mike. Yeah. A lot of consumption going on.
My last main consumption is the day after I saw you, I smoked the pastrami.
Oh man, I feel like that should be the title of a movie.
Well, I was following up because we had a series of jokes about that last episode. No. So the pastrami was smoked.
You 90% smoked a pastrami.
It was consumed. It was delightful.
I'm glad.
Yeah. I definitely, the next time I do it, and there will be a next time, I assure you. The next time that the pastrami experience happens, I definitely want to do like a long-term brine. I know I sent you the picture, and it was noticeable how thick cut the meat was, that I don't think the brine really got to get into all of it. It still tasted delicious, though.
Next time, you got to go the whole way. You got to, you brine it for a ridiculous amount of time. You cook it. You let it cool fully. You chill it a little bit. You put it through a deli slicer.
I actually liked it coming out in like the almost a more chunky type of form like that. And I cut it on the thicker side, some of it anyway. Also, shockingly, it was 8 pounds of brisket. And yeah, there is a fat cap that ultimately I trimmed a good amount of off of when I actually was cutting it up to be served.
Mm-hmm.
There was not that much left over after the first dinner.
Yeah.
Which is kind of shocking for how much meat that is. Because there's no bone in there, whatever. I
hate the bones.
I put it in the smoker. We have one of those cabinet smokers. I cut it in half to do that. So that was the day after BEERFREST. I was super hungover because we had way too much whiskey after we got back from BEERFREST. I did not help. I got up crazy early because I needed to get this going.
Sure.
I got up at like 7:30. I was like, ugh. So I went downstairs, popped some Advil. I was like, okay, let's get this fucking pastrami going. Bleary-eyed. And I took it out, whatever, spiced it, cut it in half, spiced it, let it come to room temperature for like 2 hours, put it in the smoker at like 9:30, and smoked it until 3:30. So it did get a good 6 hours in the smoker.
Sure.
And then I still gave it 2 hours in the oven. Because the recipe I found said just cook in the oven from start to finish. I was like, no, I want this smoking aspect to it. When I moved it to the oven, I put it on a baking rack in a roasting pan. And that had called for doing that with water. I actually put a couple of beers in the thing, so I got a little beer braising going on.
Mm-hmm.
So it was about 2 hours there. I had the electric thermometer because it said get it to 200 degrees because that'll help it to really get that soft cut through and all that.
Sure.
So fucking good though.
Yeah, I bet. Looked delicious. I had one thing I missed from the oven that we had bought in the old house was it had an internal probe that you could plug into the side wall of the inside of the oven, and you plugged it and you put the probe in the meat and you set the temperature that you wanted the meat at, and when it reached it would spin the fan in reverse towards the exhaust and turn the heat off so that it would just stop cooking.
Yeah.
And it was so convenient. I actually used it multiple times for my Cuban sandwiches. And it was just so convenient to have that, to just set it and be just cook it until it's at the point that I told you to cook it at. And then it would just be done.
So I did have one of those digital ones where you set the temperature. So the alarm goes off when it hits the temperature. So that's still just as useful basically.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I I took it out and let it start to come to cool before I cut it or whatever. But not cool because I still want it to be warm to eat, But you are gonna have to send me that Cuban.
I gotta find. I think I have it in my notes somewhere.
Sandwich recipe, and I will gladly share the pastrami recipe if you would like it.
Sounds good.
Yeah,
nice.
Very much worth the time and effort.
Excellent. Anything else for consumption?
I don't think so. No, that's everything.
Well, with that, let us get into our flick of the week. The Fall Guy, released in 2024, rated PG-13 with a 2-hour and 6-minute runtime. Your IMDb synopsis. A stuntman fresh off an almost career-ending accident has to track down a missing movie star, solve a conspiracy, and try to win back the love of his life while still doing his day job. What could possibly go right?
I mean, that's literally what the movie's about.
That's a good one. Probably one of the better ones. Thanks, IMDb. Why don't you start us off with our Toot-length review?
What a silly little flick. The best balance of clever and stupid, with a cast willing to laugh at themselves, and the requisite stunts to match the premise. 7 out of 10.
Nice. We're really killing it with the same score week after week. But
guys, we don't discuss these things.
We really don't. While the stuntman made the movie for his peers, he graciously lets us in on the joke. 7 out of 10. Okay. I think the thing that I love the most about the movie is I do feel like an outsider being welcomed in. There's clearly a lot of inside jokes happening.
Oh yeah.
Right.
This is definitely one of those like movie people's movie, but not in a way that, and I've never seen the movie, but I've heard that about Hail Caesar, where it's like, if you work in the movie industry, you would fucking love it because it's exactly what making a movie's like. But if not, it's going to be inscrutable.
Right.
This is not that, right? Like, yeah, there's a million little technical behind the scene things where it's like, yeah, I've never seen or heard anything about that. Does not feel like it's alienating me.
Right. Which is wonderful. It's very approachable. But the director being a former stuntman, like that, like obviously comes through in all of this. Lots of winks and nods to the camera along the way, which I appreciate. Those fun times. Clear call out that there's no stunt category in the Oscars.
Yeah. Which is actually like I know I knew that, but like hearing it again, like kind of reminded me in a way where it's like, man, that is kind of crazy.
That is insane. Especially with like when they basically cover like the rest of the construction of a film and that part is not considered. Interesting. But this movie is a lot of fun.
Now, I have a question. Did you rewatch this?
I passively rewatched it.
Which version did you pass?
The director's cut.
Okay, because that's what I watched.
Yeah.
I don't know what was
there wasn't anything that like jumped out to me as being something that wasn't there the first time around.
I mean, I'm sure there was one or two scenes, but probably more. It was a couple of scenes that were just extended, I'm guessing.
That's what my theory was that they kind of just reverse tightened it.
The one thing I would say as the lightest of criticisms is it's a long movie in the director's
It is a long movie.
It was 2.5 or nearly 2.5 hours. Now that being said, there was no like sequence that I was like they could have cut this from the movie, like, or not that they couldn't have, but nothing. I was like they should have cut this from this movie.
Right, which is why it likely is. I'm gonna guess a lot of the fat was probably trimmed in extended action sequences.
Yeah, like that big set piece when they're on the trucks with the actress from Everything Everywhere All at Once. That probably, I'm guessing, was slightly more abbreviated in the original cut because that sequence goes on pretty long. And now they kept raising the stakes, so it doesn't feel like it's dragging.
Yeah, maybe. The thing is, without seeing them side, because it's been so long since I saw the movie in theaters, I don't have I can't actively compare the two versions of it. But
I was pretty pleasantly surprised. I don't know what I was expecting it to be, but it wasn't quite what it ended up being.
Sure.
I mean, I guess I didn't expect the murder mystery plot. I will say that part of it. I feel like the promotion. This might have been one with the trailer lied to us a little bit, and the trailer was quite some time ago, so I don't remember now. But I feel like when I saw the trailer, the impression I got was like almost like they were like divorced, and that's why like they hate each other, like where they had like a bad breakup, and that was clearly not the case.
Yeah, the dynamics of their relationship weren't clear from the trailers.
Yeah, or at least they didn't feel like they were reflective of what happened in the movie. And I will say, I thought the dialogue was really snappy. I thought most of it was really great.
Yeah.
I thought it was super entertaining, like how there were some things where it's like, you have to be smart to write something this dumb. Like, there was a bunch of sequences and jokes where it's like, this is so dumb, but it's clearly intentionally dumb. Like, this is done to make this be goofy.
Right. I mean, I absolutely love the sequence where she's directing them, but basically airing her grievances with him over the bullhorn, which is just it was just such a funny back, like when she, like, she's going, and of course, she got herself a bang in her revenge body, and like, just like the thing that she was saying was so funny, and then anything to say to that, and the one guy in the costume raises his hand. I had a similar situation when I fell in love with my wife's sister. Okay.
You're not helping. But there was literally only one thing that I felt like they didn't do a good job. And ultimately it doesn't matter because it's this sort of thing and this sort of movie is always going to be some sort of contrivance. I just didn't think for something that got so many things so right with this script, whether they were trying to be highbrow or lowbrow, and they did both of those things. The one thing I thought kind of fell flat, where it's just like, this is too amateurish, was specifically the nature of her anger at him over the breakup, which was not even a breakup because they were technically, I guess, not a couple. Like, they were dating, but they weren't like officially a couple. And the whole crux of it being like, he is literally going through like PTSD and depression from this catastrophic injury, in which he is rehabbing in a hospital, and she's mad at him for not calling her. And it's like, that's not how that works exactly. Like, you could have gone and visited him, and then like, if they wanted to do it like that way, where like he's being standoffish and like,
like she kept trying,
arm's length, where it's like, okay, now this is more grounded, where it's like, no, when a person almost dies, you call them. They don't call you. You know what I mean? Like that's not how that works. You don't almost die and then call someone and be like, "Hey, I almost died, and I'm really sad about that. Anyway, how are you doing?" Like, that's not how that works. No, super small gripe. But I remember like when they've gotten to the point where they're no longer really fighting and they're now trying to get on the same page.
Did they make a comment about her trying?
She did call him a couple times. She
tries to call and he would never return his calls or something.
Yeah, which is like, okay, so if a person like broke their back and is in the hospital and you call them, you don't get a hold of them, you go to the hospital and visit them. Like, he was probably hospitalized for months.
Yeah.
like and that, again, it doesn't matter ultimately. That's not something that like is like a ding of the greatest. That's something that was like, oh, I would have loved this movie, but I didn't love it. I only kind of liked it because of that. Like, I really like this movie. This isn't like an Oscar-winning movie. 7 out of 10 is no way meant to be criticism. Like, this is a good, fun movie. It's a good,
very entertaining
movie. That was like the one thing I really hung my hat on.
Minor gripe.
Yeah. That was like the one thing I hung my hat on where it's just like, oh, that was a bit clunky. For something that did so well in so many other aspects of the script, like, I thought it was like weird for that just to be something that I felt was like sticking out like as a sore thumb. Because like, I love something like the sequence when he's tied up on the dock and what's his name is monologuing at him.
Tom, you need carbs.
But all of it, like that's just one piece of it. The running commentary on how shitty this would be as a script. He's like, yeah, you could totally turn this into a movie. Oh my god, you're drowning me in exposition right now. He's like, seriously, dude, if you just let me set you up with an editor, like, this would be fucking awesome shit right now. Oh god, you're.
that whole sequence is so great.
Kevin, run away. Kevin, run, go.
Just give us the phone and everything's gonna be fine. You're not gonna believe this, but your guy shot the phone. Oh man!
But I just love that as he's whacking the henchman, and he's like, "No, seriously, dude, you need to run away right now. Run away right now." Oh god, no, you killed him too.
Yeah. Oh my god! It's so silly. It's got a lot of laughs, a lot of great one-liners. Just a lot of great set pieces. I love, like, there's just like the pockets that they did, like, like the whole apartment one, and where they're like getting into the mind of Aaron Taylor Johnson. Speaking of having a moment, getting into the mind of
he's
Aaron
definitely
Taylor,
having a moment.
Yeah, he is rapidly approaching Nick Cage status of you're just in everything.
Well, he's rapidly approaching that moment coming to a screeching halt if and when Kraven the Hunter ever comes out.
It's a good point.
Because everything else in this moment has been pretty good.
I love when they're in his apartment and they're looking at all the Post-its that he's got all over the place.
Oh my god.
This is so stupid. All the props that are in there. And then
I call the hatchet. Fuck! Yeah. All I get is gun that fires blanks. Can you believe this?
When Winston Duke in that sequence is such a blast too. Like just shouting the names of action stars as he does one of their moves.
Yeah,
Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
I also loved how he did like the thing that like everyone who's of like our age, that age, and like 10 years more, where it's like we're just gonna quote lines at each other, and the other person's gonna guess the line. He does it like 4 or 5 times during the course of the movie.
I like when he paraphrases it.
Mm-hmm.
And Ryan Gosling's like, Fast and Furious. He's like, yeah, you know it. Oh man, it's so silly. I was gonna go. I wanted to get a list of them, but I failed to do it. I only had one written down from the movie. I know that they like mention a lot of Tom Ryder's movies, like in there. There's posters everywhere. They mention the names of them. And I wanted to get a list of them, but I failed to do it.
It was very Tropic Thunder with like the fake movies that were like real movies within their universe.
The one that stood out to me was Annihilation of Fowler, and I was just like, "What?"
Well, because they kept showing like the trailer for that, or like the flashback to like the scenes of that or whatever, right? Annihilation, and all of them have really bad like taglines too.
Yes, it's so fun. Like, and so like going back to the set pieces bit, right? Like the way they do like, there's the apartment, there's the boat chase, there's the dock sequence, there's the car chase scene, like, but those are the action ones. But they had a really good like comedic setups, like we talked about, like with the like the airing of the relationship grievances like over the bullhorn. Very funny. One of my favorites is when he's just crying in the car to Taylor Swift. It's just so silly. And I don't know, like, Ryan Gosling, he pulls off charm, and it's just so like he's very good at making fun of himself and having a good time. Like he's a very funny person.
Yeah. Which is funny because earlier in his career, I never would have guessed.
Sure. But like now, like with things like this with Ken, like he is so silly.
He is kind of, to an extent, basically doing Ken again. He's doing competent Ken.
Competent Ken. I really lost interest when I found out it wasn't about horses. Patriarchy.
No, because he's fantastic at his job within the movie, right? He's a spectacular stuntman. It turns out that extends to other things where like he can fight because he's done so many fight choreography scenes and like all this sort of shit. But like he's even not terrible as a detective.
Yeah,
like he's competent. He's still a dope.
I'm here for the cheese plate. Do you want a cheese plate? I don't know how this works. Just tell Kevin I want the cheese plate.
While he's high as a kite on whatever shit they gave him.
The unicorn is just in the back.
You know you're still high if you can still see a unicorn. It's just like lurking in the background of the scene. The conversation, I don't remember exactly the details of the conversation he has with the cop when he comes out after finding the dead body, and he's just being like ridiculous. Yep. And the cop is like, you can tell he's like, do I shoot this guy because he's getting aggressive, or do I pity him because he's a fucking insane person?
It's so good. It's just so funny. I don't remember. I truly don't remember the reason why. And this happened to me after the first time I watched it also. Like the rest of the movie, like I watched the whole movie, had a blast, understand, bad guy, set up, whatever. It's fine. I don't remember the reason why he rigged the thing to fail, on the stunt to fail.
Oh, it was because he did an interview for like Rolling Stone in which he like did like a whole profile. Like he didn't like that he was getting like the slightest shred of fame.
Oh, okay, that's all.
He needed to put him back in his place. He literally said, because he talks about doing it like something like that to someone else earlier before that too, and it was like meant to be like a reference that like you got like, oh, this isn't the first time he's done this to someone he's worked with before. Because like the way Ryan Gosling's character reacts, like you could see he's putting two together. Like he never realized that was also him doing it to that guy as well.
Right.
I don't remember what the exact explanation on that one was, but like it was one of those things where it's like, oh, this isn't even the first time he's done this before. I also think, yeah, what was it, Aaron Taylor Johnson? Right? That's his when. This is such a great send up of like this whole diva actor thing. When he calls her crying in the bathtub after he accidentally killed the guy, and he's like, "I am starring in this major movie right now, and this is not something I need right now in my life. Getting arrested for killing a guy is not something he needs right now."
Oh man, yeah. I think there is something funny about like his like prima donna nature and his producer like being like really just the evil genius brains of this organization.
Well, because she's both like an enabler and also is she being the evil mastermind? Where like you get the sense where like she's not like a psychopath who's just wantonly killing people,
right?
But make my movie, frame some guy who doesn't matter anymore. Which one of those things is going to get me what I want? Frame the guy who I used to like, who was like someone who was like a close collaborator, but he doesn't serve me anymore. Like it is a psychotic thing to do, but like it doesn't ever feel like malicious or vindictive or like she's getting off on it, right? Like it's just, this is an obvious choice. I got to frame him for murder because I need to make this movie.
It's so stupid. What a ridiculous plot. I love ridiculous plots.
So I'm glad they let her be ridiculous in this movie. I mean, not that she didn't have her moments of levity; she had plenty of them in Ted Lasso. But just getting to see her be like a total, like turning it to 11 on the fucking crazy meter. Yeah, it was a joy to watch in the handful of scenes that she's really.
We're of course talking about Hannah Waddingham.
Yes,
so funny. It's an overacted part intentionally.
Yes,
it's great.
Overacted on purpose is pretty much always funny to me.
Yeah. The sequence in the Liar Liar bloopers reel. Overactor.
Yes. Hag.
I pulled up the IMDb list of quotes just because I figured we can go through some of these. I'll try to spot ones that are funny. And if there's any more to go on it, like in those sequences of the movie. So this one, Jody is I forgot her real name for a second. The Emily Blunt character, and Colt Seavers, great name, is the Ryan Gosling character. And here's one of the quotes from the top of the list. Jody, you're literally, this is Jody speaking. You're literally the last person on earth I want to see. I'd slap the shit out of you. I really could. Colt, and I'm open to that in a safer environment. But oh man, I wanted to. We talked about the Winston Duke recording movies most of the time.
He also intentionally overacting, just hamming it up.
Yeah, but it ain't about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. Nah, man, you can't quote Rocky on me right now. Stupid back and forth, Jody. I'm the director. You're the stunt guy. We need to keep it super profesh. Profesh is my middle name. You said your middle name was Danger. That's my stage name. Like, there's a lot of really funny, like, just very silly, like, just movie, just like, you know. Like they could just be saying movie cliches and it would probably be as funny as them actually doing the movie cliches, which is really great. I loved it. I just had it's just a really fun watch. And when I was rewatching it or like had it on, I couldn't help but like I would like lose myself in a scene here or there and just be cracking up. It's just so funny. I keep coming back to this you need carbs thing though, because when he's repeating it, he's like, your brain, you just need it for your brain. You need to be able to, you need the energy, you need to be able to think clearly. You gotta have a carb, man. Oh boy. Time to the edge of the universe. What a great, so ridiculous.
The running gag with the
Hall H shot.
The what? Oh, well, that was good, but no, specifically the thing with the weapon / guitar, which was like clearly like a ripoff of the thing from Mad Max Fury Road.
Yes.
And then like her being like using it later, it's like, oh, this is starting to grow on me.
Yeah.
I also love that this movie was literally just like a mishmash of Mad Max, Star Wars, and Dune.
Yep.
Like just like unabashed ripoff of those three.
Yeah. Oh, so ridiculous. I just pulled up the actual line. It's Tom, you need carbs. Your brain runs on glucose. For simple cognitive function, you need them. Oh man, that was the one that had me. I just like couldn't stop. I actually replayed it a couple times. You got to wrap the message in sexy bacon. That's where the sexy bacon, like, nihilism is the sexy bacon.
Yes, that's right. Was that something they called back to like more than once in the?
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, they bring the sexy bacon up a lot. Well, it all hurts. It always hurts. Getting hit by a car hurts. Getting set on fire hurts. And getting thrown down out of a window really hurts.
They set him on fire so many times. Like at the end of that where you see him, he's just like so fucking disheveled and like scorched and singed, and the whole running commentary about the thing about like the thumbs up, and I fucking hate that thumbs up from you guys.
Those, you know what really just I couldn't get enough of is the first time I watched it was when you get to the credits and they're showing the stuntmen doing the stunts for the movie. The stuntman for the guy playing the stuntman, just that whole wrapping your head around that, I thought was just like, it was just
Stuntception.
Really, it was just a little, just got a lot of little chuckles out of that. I just thought it was really funny. I always loved that. I always loved like the stunts and stunt bloopers.
Yeah.
Especially like at the end of any Jackie Chan movie.
I was going to say the Rush Hour movies with Jackie Chan doing that.
So great. When there's one that always sticks in my mind. It's like when he goes to jump through like the teller booth.
And in the casino.
Like, he's like kicking his feet trying to get through it. It's just too small.
Before you even said it, I immediately knew that's where you were going.
I also love the one in Rush Hour where he goes, Jackie, kick it. Chris Tucker.
My name, so stupid. That was what one of the things I was getting to with like my review was, it's a movie about a stuntman, and like the stunts have to be on point, and they are, right? And even seeing like, oh, like it's laughable, like, oh, we're doing a movie and we're doing a stunt, and like that's mostly cheesy. But then like they follow that up with doing like real stunts, like again, like that whole set piece where they're fucking chasing each other and like the truck was ridiculous.
Yeah, like sliding on the door and with the feet on. Yeah,
and the dog, like how the dog every time is just biting some dude in the nuts, so like just like a fucking like on and on and on. The fight within the cab, she's whacking him with the bottle, and the whole thing like, you know, who's falling out of the truck.
Yes,
the sparks flying all over the place. That's great. That's like legitimately great. Like action sequence, that fight scene in the club when he's on the drugs and it's all like gets fucking trippy as hell. Like, that was really cool. I was not expecting that to go down in that way at that moment, but I really enjoyed that. That was cool.
The choreography in the apartment fight.
Yeah, multiple times. Even the time where he's like has all like the props, and she has like the it seems like an actual sword, and of course she also just has a prop sword.
Yeah, I love shtick.
And then, obviously, the whole siege scene with Winston Duke as well is pretty excellent. You know, they keep ratcheting these things up. You have the chase scene with the boat, which is cool. The
callback to I could do this backwards with blindfolded, and he's got, because his hands are tied, he's like, I can actually do this jump with this boat right now. I found one of the sexy bacon lines. It was, "Did you just turn Jodie into the sexy bacon? She's been the sexy bacon all along."
Yeah,
that was. But you made a quote earlier in today's episode of if you bring the car back without a scratch, I've got a crispy fiver for you. This is the line. It says, LA, bro. How are you even still alive? Cold Seavers. I don't know. I wish I wasn't right now.
Yeah, I remember that. I was like, Jesus, that was dark. Yeah, that was what stuck with me about that stupid line. It's not like that funny on its own, but it's like you were literally just like raving about this dude, how incredible he was. Like, you know who he is, you know what he went through and how hard the times he's on, and he's supposed to get excited for your $5 in LA?
Oh my god.
In this economy?
Ridiculous. In this economy? Oh man. What a fun film. I mean, I don't really have much else to say. Like, it was a treat. It's like one of those movies. Like, it's just a fun time, and sometimes you need that. But it's also really well structured, really well written, and the performances are fantastic. And of course, the coordination of the stunts are bananas.
Yeah. I like this idea of continuing. There was almost like a light side of the Force version of the Batman, where we have this like very slow, long form noir story going on that we have like a set piece or two. Like, we're gonna come back and have like our after action report, and we're gonna have some like dialogue and some character, and then we're gonna go back out into the road and like do a little bit more. Like, it reminded me a little bit of. I caught a few minutes of the Batman not that long ago, and like watching the Penguin obviously has it like fresh in my mind. But in some ways, like this, this parallel that structure a little bit to me, where it's like we don't have this whole, oh, we're gonna do this one clue movie. Like it, oh, we're gonna go do a little bit of this, and we're gonna come back, and we're gonna do a little bit of this and come back. We're gonna go do a little bit of this and come back, and like we keep like reframing how we're gonna interact and like what's going on in the balance of that structure of. What is this? The actual main plot of the movie is not super important. Of like this is all framed within. We have to get this done before the shoot of the movie is done, or before anyone gets suspicious about it. But like, it is a clock that's ticking within all of that, and how they continue to have like those extended arms of we're gonna have a ridiculous fight scene. In the mid tier is we're gonna worry about the development of the relationship between these two leads. And then the internal one, like most arc of this whole thing, is this movie is being made and how each of those things like flow downstream to the characters' motivations within all of this as we're picking through the Venn diagram of who cares about what and all that. There's actually a pretty substantial amount of layering to all of that and like consideration that goes into making that in a way that makes this a palatable, enjoyable movie.
Absolutely. I mean, but there's something clearly to be said about like, so this guy, he's directed a number of movies already, but
he's the guy who did a couple of the John Wicks, right?
He did this, he did Bullet Train, he did Snowball, I'm not sure what that is, but he did Hobbs and Shaw. There's a couple, Deadpool 2, Atomic Blonde.
Oh, he's that guy. Okay, I confuse those two guys.
Yeah, there's another one. I know what you're talking about. Because
there's two different... Who's the other guy? Is it Chad Stahelski? Because this is David Leitch, right?
Yeah.
Is it Chad Stahelski is the guy I'm thinking of?
I'll pull up John Wick and see. But like, what I'm getting at though is like, and these are the movies that he's... Yeah, so John Wick is Chad Stahelski.
Yeah. I kind of... Because I think... I want to say the two of them collaborated on something.
Let me see if I can figure that out easily.
Like, maybe one of them produced the other?
Well, Chad Stahelski did stunts on Deadpool 2.
Okay.
I
want to say one of them produced the other, but they've both been directing like their own stuff now. But it is interesting to have two different, like, stunt guys become like major players as directors in this world. And director-producers now.
And put together like a really great movie.
Really great movie.
Really well done.
It's because
you learn all the things while you're there. Like they clearly like are movie lovers, not just
Yeah. Well, you would think awesome. Okay, they have an eye for stunts and cool action and how to make an action movie, but both these guys, whether or not they're the ones doing the writing, these movies are well written.
Yeah.
Which is, if you expected something to lag, it would be that. And they at least have an eye for finding the right people to collaborate with, right?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. For sure. Very cool. Just have to keep an eye out for them and any of their future projects. That's all. Any closing thoughts?
No, I know we touched on a bunch of things very quickly. This probably isn't the type of movie we're going to sit and have a really deep conversation for an hour and a half.
This is more fun, shoot the shit, go over some quotes.
Yeah.
Very entertaining.
There was some cool stuff. Oh, there is one last little thing. I mean, the whole final sequence was bonkers. Like the plot to get him to confess by throwing him into a stunt, playing on like the ego play. That was all cool. That was interesting. You maybe jumped the shark a little bit with the whole helicopter sequence, although I did like how they brought it all home with like timing up. Again, we're timing up a stunt, and it was we're gonna get the fucking mat underneath him and fall and all that stuff. But closing it with, and again, this was very Tropic Thunder, like how like this is about like the movie within the movie.
Yeah.
But the whole idea of we're finishing this movie even if we have to do a shot-for-shot remake with Jason Momoa.
Yeah.
And that... And he's so ridiculous. Like, forget about anyone else. We talk about Hannah Waddingham or Winston Duke hamming it up. Jason Momoa is just being so fucking ridiculous in this.
I think it's fair to say that man is always having the best time.
It seems like it.
But
But
a zest for life.
even that's a callback. When you're talking about his insane post-it notes,
Yeah.
he had multiple post-it notes about Jason Momoa. The first one was about how to spell his name. It was just like a stupid post-it note about it was Momoa and like two different spellings with a question mark next to it. But then I think that's the first scene where he starts looking at the post-it notes, and then later there's a different post-it note where you could tell there was a jealousy of him.
Uh-huh.
So for him to be the guy who he gets recast as.
Yeah,
is a pretty great way to tie that stupid loop
also
together.
Just wonderful foreshadowing of where it's all going to go.
Yes, which again gets back to my point of like, this movie is way smarter than it should be at times, considering how much time it spent intentionally being stupid.
Absolutely.
So I appreciated that, and he's just so ridiculous. and there's something that really
I forgot all about that.
There's something that really gets me with movies that are about making movies. Where when they cut the trailers within the movie, they intentionally make them so cheesy looking.
Yeah.
And it like, I don't know why that cracks me up. That like, this looks like shit, but it's clearly like, that's what they want it to look like.
Right.
Because when we watch an actual trailer, it's like, oh, that looks awesome. Like we were talking about the ballerina trailer. That looks fucking awesome. That looks like super slick and polished. And like, when you like think about watching like a Dune or Mad Max trailer, like, oh, that looks incredible. This fucking trailer looks like dog shit.
It's high noon at the edge of the universe.
So stupid.
So bad. I love it. Oh, man. Well, that's all for this week's episode of Flix in a Six. We hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have a movie for us to review or nuggets for us to discuss, you can send those requests to flixinasix@thespintune.com. Tune in next week for more movie and beer goodness. Until then, I'm Anthony Costanzo.
I'm Biolsi.
Thanks for coming out.